Good evening. We welcome you all here tonight. We call to order this regular session of the West Valley City Council meeting. We're taking care of a few items, as you saw there, because we usually don't have this many people here. And we will also have our first effort. We have a council member who is not physically present. Councilman Stephen Vincent is joining us by phone electronically, which is now permissible to do so. And we'll make sure that he is able to participate in our discussion as needed, and also he will be able to hear the comments that are made here by those in attendance. Because there are a lot here, we encourage you to be respectful of everyone else who is here to speak. We will go through our regular agenda. There are a lot of people who signed up to speak, mostly here, I suspect, to speak on the budget, and we'll clarify that. There's also a public comment period that will be separate from that, which can be on any subject, but it's limited to 5 minutes per person, up to a half an hour. So that's kind of separate from the budget. But we'll coach you through that, and if you want to speak to the budget, we'll have that opportunity during our meeting. With that, we declare that we have and one of the things, certainly people are welcome to have public demonstrations, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak. Generally in public meetings, though, to be respectful to everyone, we don't allow you to speak out of turn or just jump up and yell and shout kind of thing. That's so that everyone will have their chance to be heard. We don't want anyone drowned out. Or demonstrations in here, such as chanting or signs or things like that. We'd ask you to be respectful of others, because others haven't had that opportunity. So we want you all be on even ground. We're going to take care of some regular business here for a few minutes, and if you'll bear with us, we'll get to the business that you're here for shortly. With that, we have 6 members of our council present, and our 7th member present electronically. We'll begin tonight with an opening ceremony. Councilman Don Christensen has that.
Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We sometimes have scout troops come and join us. There's a group here. Oh, okay. And we like to give them special recognition because they're usually the only ones that show up. We would invite a representative of your troop or group to come forward and tell us your troop number, the schools you attend, and why you're here tonight. I assume you're working on a merit badge or something in scouting. So come right on up. Right here to this microphone, yes.
We're from Troop 796, and we're here because we're earning a merit badge. And the schools we're attending are, well, the schools we are going to be attending is, I'm going to be attending Valley Junior High. Peyton is attending some other school. Yeah.
Okay, that's good enough. Now we had another scout troop come in. Is that correct? Back in the back. And what we asked, 3 things. Your troop number, the schools you attend, so we just get an idea of what general area you're from, and then what you're working on tonight. Who's been elected or appointed? or coerced. And it has to be a young man. You can't have your troop leaders or your adults do it.
Hi, my name is Miguel. I come from the troop 1994, and we're from West Valley. And we came here for our merit badge, the citizenship merit badge.
Very good. Well, thank you and welcome. We appreciate having you here. Next on our agenda are the minutes to the council, the minutes of July 26th, our last meeting.
Mayor, move for approval of July 26th minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have it properly before us. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, then all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. The minutes are approved. Next, we have our Employee of the Month Award, Maria Alvarado, and I believe that it's Councilman Yoon. Who's doing? Oh, Councilman Christensen. Sorry.
Maria, would you please stand as we read this nomination form? She's hiding over in the side. You can barely see. Come on up here in front, Maria.
Councilman Christensen, just for the public awareness, we regularly honor certain employees and take the opportunity to recognize their work. They have to be nominated, go through a process. And as you'll hear from some of the comments here, you'll get an idea of some of the things they do.
Thank you. Maria works in our Justice Court, and the nomination form says Maria is probably the most cheerful and positive person here at the Justice Court. She starts off each day with a hello and a smile to every person she comes across. I personally know a handful of times that she has made my day more positive just by being around her cheerful personality. She also was recently asked to change job assignments and has taken the time necessary to learn everything she needs to know in order to perform her new assignment to the best of her ability. Maria is also one of our Spanish speakers and never hesitates to volunteer to translate for a customer or take Spanish calls when asked to help. Maria, congratulations on being our Employee of the Month.
Thank you.
A lot of these get posted on our Facebook page, and so we encourage you all to check that out. Not just things like this, but many of the events of West Valley City. Okay. Next, we come to our comment period. Now, I'll clarify, if you're here to speak to the budget, state law sets up a very specific process. And it's interesting that it's separate from our regular comment period. So those of you here to speak on the budget or have comments on that, we will have a separate portion of our meeting in just a few minutes for that. Right now, we have our general comment period. We have to have a point in our every meeting where the public can simply participate on any subject that they want. But because all of you, I assume many of you are here to speak on the budget, though you may have signed up, if that was the case, we'll hold this for that budget public hearing portion. Was there anyone else here? I think we have at least one that I know of that was here to speak to another issue.
We've got a whole bunch of people here to speak to another issue.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, if there are many people to another issue, our rules with regards to that is a single individual can take up to 5 minutes. And we set aside half an hour for that. So with that, and I get my timer up here so that we keep track of that. So how many people are here to speak, not to the budget, but other items? Can I just see the number? 1.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So if you're all to speak to a similar issue, you might want to get together. We'll run out of time. Okay? So, or did you sign up on the list? We'll start with that. Okay, if you're to speak to the budget, just wave your hand and say no. If I get to your name, stand up if you speak now. John Frederick? Budget, okay. Paul Adams? Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I was here a year ago, approximately. I hate to come back and bring the same issue to your attention, but hopefully I've got a little bit of hope, and I'll know a little later after we get through with the budget hearing. You may have come up with some money so that we can have full-time law enforcement instead of part-time. This part-time issue is what I'm griping about. It has to do with the zoning enforcement. These people do not work on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. They don't work on evenings either. So they've got a heck of a good job, and I was wondering if there's an extra space with new budget money, if maybe I could apply for that job. However, my problem is it's a traffic issue in front of my home. My neighborhood has an ongoing yard sale. A couple weeks ago, that neighbor completed his 12th yard sale since January. I have brought this to the attention of the zoning enforcement numerous times. I've listened to all the excuses. I even found out how if I could take pictures and build a log, send it to him, he could look at it and deal with this individual. I hate to do it for free, but I'm still hoping again that you may have that job available for me. I do need to think, though, that somebody needs to take care of this. This is a giant yard sale. This man's living is made entirely by this type of work. He keeps the neighborhood in an uproar for hours on the weekends. I go to the zoning commission, they come back with me. I didn't see him, so I can't do anything with it. And this is a joke. It's an entire joke. And I really request somebody take a look at this. Isn't there somebody that's accountable for this? I can't find an accountable person. I've lived in West Valley for 21 years and was a businessman here. Believe me, I knew all about zoning enforcement. There wasn't a thing I did on my property, leave one oil can, I'd hear about it. I got signs up that people wrote us a ticket for and we paid. I had all kinds of it. But my understanding is 5 yard sales a year is the maximum. How come this guy's just passed his 12th one? We did this last year too. When's it end? I'm asking for some help here. The riffraff that comes into that neighborhood and stuff all week long, as he's loading his stuff up in his yard and his garage is absolutely a shame. And I just don't like that. And then Saturday morning when this starts, we've got a traffic issue. My driveway's in front of the street that goes down the block. And right there, I've seen 2 or 3 fender benders every Saturday morning. People are looking at signs and driving nuts. It's baloney. So I request some help, and I appreciate your time, and thank you very much if you can do something about this issue.
Thank you. Next, we have Jeff White.
Budget.
Okay, Jeff Reeve. John Sanders.
That would be me. Am I up to bat?
Yes.
I'm John Sanders, and I've lived in West Valley for about 30 some odd years. I come from Chesterfield. I know it's a sore subject here. Everybody hates Chesterfield. We love Chesterfield. All these people right here, we love Chesterfield. We love the way it is. We love our neighborhood. We love most all of our neighbors. We have a problem down there with a couple of neighbors that are turning everybody in. If a horse gets out, hey man, we go catch him and put him in a pen. Somebody's pen, nobody cares whose pen. It's fine, put him in there. The guy will come looking for his horse in due time. Everybody agrees. My wife's family, and take this in, my wife's grandfather, Peter Lavender, bought this property in 1915, 100 years ago. The brothers sold their last 10 acres. We've got 2 half acres left now with houses on them. We have boarded, grazed, raised, broke, killed, processed, butchered, made sausage, everything on this property. I've got a notice now that I have to come and get a permit from West Valley City. You don't like our plywood shacks down there. Now, and I'm going to go right into where this makes me, I came to the mayor's office 7, 8 years ago, and I said, you are ruining my property value, letting everybody build these shacks here. I don't know what they do in them, I had no idea, but we didn't like it. They told me, well, we have changed the law from Jackie Whitehead from a 10 by 12 or 10 by 16 rabbit huts, kept the dogs out from killing these rabbits. Had to get a building permit for that. To wide open, you can build whatever you want. They told me in that mayor's office, you can build whatever you want down there. They built whatever they wanted down there. It was all good. When they sold our properties, the Polygamous Church bought from me, and they're good guys. They come to me, John, we want you to take this property. I said, I can't pay you for this property. I can't pay you what you want for it. No, he says, you keep the 10 acres that you've been raising, the last 10 acres that you got down here, and you keep your animals just like you've had them before. This other 10 acres over here, follow suit with whatever they're doing in West Valley City. Deal. Man, I'll get to keep my thing. We'll make a lot of people happy down there because they'll get a piece of horse property, animal property, all these things. It all happened, worked. Well, now we don't like your shacks. And I'm going to single you out, John Sanders. Out of everybody in West Valley City, we have never given a permit for animal use ever. We want you to have a permit. In fact, you're going to have that permit, and you're going to go to court. And we're going to decide how much we're going to charge you. So this thing that I've done my whole life, 100 years in West Valley City, way before West Valley City, you guys were even probably born and thought of. We've done the same exact thing. And I'm going to go to the next part. Chickens. Now we've got these people that they don't like us. I don't know why they live there. They come down there, they want to change everything in Chesterfield. Oh, he's got too many weeds. His car isn't parked on the gravel. He's got roosters back there crowing. We've had roosters crowing from day one. It is that part of life. And I'm telling you, if you take away the roosters, and I didn't know this whole thing was going on here about the rooster. we have to work every day. There's people that don't work, they just drive around and cause trouble. If you take away the roosters, the next thing, when they come in and say, oh, hey, them goats stink, you gotta get rid of them goats. Then you guys get in line and you get rid of the goats. Then my sheep, they back to that. So I'm just telling you, I am not falling for any animals of ours to be taken away. It is not right. You think that because they fight chickens, you never hear a word about it. I played the game for a long time. I don't know more, haven't a long time. But they police themselves. They hurt nobody. And their kids get a good, valuable lesson. You get out there and feed today. And they learn to work. All of their kids learn to work down on the farm. Is my time up?
40 seconds.
Oh, I can do a lot done in 40 seconds. I'm a working son of a gun. So anyway, I want you guys to know, you are getting one side of this about Chesterfield. It is not a general consensus, because we all love animals. This whole bunch here. We all love animals. If you got a half acre, what are you going to do with a half an acre? Mow it? And I can't wait to put a sheep in there to eat it. I don't get a skid steer and come gravel it off. I put an animal in there to eat it. Anyway, I think I've got my point across. You've been to my house. And this guy is the best guy. He comes and visits us,
Okay,
talks to
thank
his
you.
citizens. Hey, thank you for
Let's-
listening
let's
to my
get that.
ranting.
That is Margie Pinniger.
Hello. I've lived in West Valley, which is Chesterfield, for 70 years. My parents bought down in there in 1948. We've had chickens all the time. I married my husband in 1962. We are still married. We've had chickens, cows, pigs, horses, goats, sheep, rabbits, you name it, we've had it, we've raised it. And I like my chickens. I've got chickens. I feed my chickens, I water my chickens, I buy the food for it, and I get eggs from them. I love living down there because it's an agricultural place. That's why we're all living down there. It's because it's nice and quiet, that people are friendly. If you have a problem with your neighbor, you go to your neighbor. If you can't get it fixed then, they don't listen to you, then you go to the next step and come into West Valley and sign a complaint or see what you can do. But most of the people, if you have a problem with them, you go to them, they fix what the problem is. If they have a problem with me, they come to me. I'll fix whatever needs to be fixed. We don't need somebody coming in there. We don't need a second mayor coming in there telling us what we can have and we cannot have. We don't need another, as they call it, the yard cop, or the guy that goes around telling you, you need to clean this up, you need to clean that up. People down there know that they need to clean their things up. I have a nice yard. It's not up to date with a lot of them, but I have a nice big front lawn. I have flowers. I have 2 dogs. I have chain link fence all around my property. My dogs are in my yard. They're not running at large. And I don't like somebody coming into my yard telling me what I cannot and cannot have. Also, I'd like to find out about this. If you don't get new windows in your house, you don't put a roof on your house, you guys are going to come in and condemn my house and take my property. We'd like to find out about what that is all about. So, like I said, I love living where I'm living. I love the people down there. I know most of the people. They come and go. They're nice people down there, and I don't care if they're whites, Mexicans, or whatever. We all get along down there, and we don't need somebody coming in and telling us what we cannot and can have, because we know. And most of us is law-abiding citizens. Yes, we do have problems down there. Drive-by shootings once. But that's not like a big crime area like some of the other places. We love living here, and I want to stay there. Thank you.
It's a Roll, please.
Hello, good evening. As the Lord once said, I speak for the trees. Well, I speak for Chesterfield. I speak for the whites, for the Hispanics, and for everyone. As John said, we were raised within the animals. The animals that we grew around. The animals that came here before anyone else. I grew around them ever since I was little. I don't want them taken away. If someone comes saying, I want the roosters away, it's like taking a part of me away without them asking me. Nobody can come and tell anyone what to do without telling them first. Nobody has a right over anyone else. Superiority does not matter here. You need to speak with someone. If you have an issue, you go and you talk to them. Around in Chesterfield, we're not friends, we're family. We consider every neighbor a family. We don't want issues. If you have a problem, you go and talk to them. You go, hey, yeah, we have this issue. Yeah, let's get this fixed out. You don't just go. If you have an issue and it's not solved, just like Maggie said, you go. If you can't fix it, then you come here. Like John said, all the kids there, you see them running around in the streets. You don't see them on their phone. You don't see them there. You see them running in the streets. You see them happy, running with a soccer ball, with an animal, or with a dog. They're happy. We just don't want no issues. We're happy where we live. We wanted to keep it that way. And that's how West Valley's always been like that ever since I've been there. I've been there, I'm 18 years old. I've been there for more than 10 years. I grew around chickens, horses, dogs, pigs, cows, goats. Yeah, it might smell a little funny sometimes, but hey, it's home. Home is home. Home is wherever you go, wherever you feel safe. But when someone comes and brings problems to you, your safety, you just feel like it's not there anymore. You just feel like you can't express yourself. Being who you are is being where you are. And where you are is always home. My home is in Chesterfield. My home is where the animals are, where the kids are running around like crazy. They scrape their knees, they're, all right, I'm good, let me get up. You go home, and there's peace, it's quiet. That's how it is. And when people bring problems, and they can't just tell us about it or anything, just like let us know, then it's just not fair to us. We want to know what goes around in West Valley and Chesterfield. That's our area, that's our home, those are our family. I've known John ever since I was a little girl. I've known him always riding his four-wheeler with his little dog coming around. I used to be afraid of his dog. No, I grew up to know him. I love his dog. I love everyone there. Everyone there is a family. And we would like to keep it that way. Thank you for your time.
Next is Bud Shosted or something? Budget, okay. Troy Council, budget. Mr. Finball, budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Terry Mills? Okay.
I feel like I belong on this side tonight. I too am an agriculture girl living in the city. Mayor Bigelow and city council members, it's good to be with you, and I appreciate your time. The purpose for my comments tonight stem from a personal experience. I hope my misfortune will serve as a catalyst to improve West Valley City's animal control services. 1 week ago today, my kitty was killed by the neighbor's dog. I witnessed the horrible tragedy in my backyard on the patio. I have many concerns over this terrible event. I will mention 2 tonight. First, after my husband placed a call to Animal Services requesting an officer respond to a dog attack, we received a return call from Animal Services rather than an officer. My husband took this call, so I cannot tell you firsthand the conversation, but basically it was to verify that a dog had attacked a cat and that we truly needed an officer. If this is a standard procedure, I believe it should be reviewed and changed. When an emergency happens, an officer is needed, not a phone call. The second concern is far greater and more difficult to resolve. I would like it to be noted that I have met with my neighbors and Officer Beckstead, the field supervisor, to resolve my personal situation. I come before you tonight in hope of changing the future for others, not my own circumstance. I was told that when a dog attacks and kills a cat, if it is a first offense, a citation is given to the dog owner. The dog is not impounded or considered vicious and possibly euthanized. I understand that every situation is different, but for me personally, I have a fear of large dogs. Unfortunately, this is not my first time to have an experience with brutal dogs. I know the topic of whether a dog will attack and kill again is a debatable conversation. However, I believe it is a conversation that needs to take place. West Valley City Animal Service mission statement reads, "The mission of West Valley City Animal Services is to diligently improve the quality of life in our community by providing safety to citizens and animals, preserving the health of citizens, and providing care for animals." I don't believe as a city we are meeting this mission statement. I strongly encourage you to make this a topic of discussion and move towards policy change. Animal lives matter, and the death of a pet from a first offense hurts just as greatly as that of a second offense. I hope that you will take this into consideration and that policy will change so that all pet owners are equally represented. And I would like to be notified when this discussion takes place. Thank you.
Eugene Sorensen, budget. Ed and Sherry Blanchard. Budget, okay, missed that. Ron Black.
I'm with the budget.
Oh, okay. We'll have a separate one for that. Okay. So, now were there others here who were going to speak to this issue in Chesterfield? That you feel needs to be added? We've covered about between 60 and 18 minutes of our half hour. If that's all for that, then we're going to close it down. We'll still do the budget. Oh, one more over here.
May I add to this?
Yes. But now you have to give your name and your address.
Will I still get to speak to the budget?
Yes.
Okay, then we're good. Chef White, 4081 Westlake Avenue. Mayor, council members. As I've studied history, there seems to be two competing forces, and they usually form in government. One is that we have inalienable rights, and the other is that we don't. One is that a government has the authority to tell others what to do, and the other is that government has the authority to secure the rights of the individual and let them live their lives. There are two pendulums side, as most things are, especially when they're important things. You have the totalitarian side and you have the anarchy side. Myself, I don't like either side. I believe there should be somewhere in the middle. Probably myself, as y'all know, a little bit closer to the chaos side. A little bit less laws. I'm for Chesterfield. I'm for everyone in the city being able to live the way they want to live. I grew up in Tennessee, and we were allowed to do things our way. I do like that they have changed some of the laws, and cinder blocks are not tires anymore, except in the backyard. But people can still have cinder blocks, their car up on cinder blocks, just out of where it would be where children can get in them and get injured. Out of sight, behind a fence. We have that problem here in West Valley. In Las Vegas, when I grew up there, well, I lived there after Tennessee, had a car, I couldn't get it fixed. I was a poor college student, and that's redundant. I couldn't fix my car. It needed a clutch and it needed a transmission. So I rode a bike for 8 months till I could save the money, and I paid off one of my college loans and saved the money to fix my car. Las Vegas allowed me to have an unlicensed car as long as it was not on the road. Here in this city and a lot of other cities, this is not just here. Why not change the policy that we have? An unlicensed car, if it's in the garage or behind a fence, should be okay. If it's off the road, it should be okay. If people want to live in an agriculture area and have their animals, please let them.
Hey, can I make one point just for 5 seconds?
Let's see.
I probably had 10 seconds left.
No, actually, I let you go over a little bit. So,
I just got a call.
no person addressing the city council during the comment period shall be allowed to comment more than once during that comment period. Sorry. I had to go back
There's another
and,
one of the rules. I'm not-
well, and it's to make sure that one doesn't monopolize.
Yes, okay, go.
Okay?
Go somebody else.
Always check with the council to make sure I'm doing it right. With that then, we will close the public comment period, the general public comment period. We will now come back to hear our city manager. Any comments you want to make?
Sir, yes, thank you. I'll make just a couple of quick comments that will hopefully narrow and shed a little bit of light on the Chesterfield discussion, and then I also just wanted to provide a little bit of information to Ms. Mills, who we have long association with and sympathy to. We heard and actually discussed the incident mentioned. I didn't realize it was your cat, so I want to express my, and I'm sure our sorrow for that as well too. And maybe I'll start with that particular subject. So the mayor had spoken to me about this incident a few days ago, if not a week ago, and we were talking about what are the particular aspects of what penalties apply in this sort of situation, what else can we do, and then that conversation was also picked up in the study meeting this evening by the council as a whole. So they've asked us to look into what some options are for changing that, and of course we will invite you whenever any changes would be made, but just so you know, that conversation has already started, and we'll be looking into whatever options we might be able to do to hopefully help or some way, hopefully prevent those sort of situations in the future. So I just wanted to make sure Terry knew that and that we were proceeding with that. On the Chesterfield conversation, I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding, so I just wanted to make sure that we're all sort of talking from the same page about what's going on out there in terms of agricultural zoning, chickens, roosters versus cockfighting and all that sort of thing, and what the current conversation is that's going on. So first, I just want to make sure that everybody that's here understands that there's no discussion or proposal before the council to take away agricultural zoning or the ability to have your animals or chickens or even roosters. There is discussion underway to limit the number of roosters, but they would still be, if any action takes place, they would still be allowed on the properties. The only intent or conversation that's currently going on is to somehow possibly influence to a more positive effect the number of roosters that are being raised. Apparently, this is the story we're hearing, for the purposes of cockfighting. Now, something else I might also point out is that under current state law and federal law, that's actually already an illegal activity. So if that's going on, then you already have an inherent problem that, we may be looking at other ways to influence or hopefully discourage or whatever. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that nobody's talking about taking away either the agricultural zoning itself or farm animals in general, or even chickens and roosters specifically, except for in that particular instance. And even then, all this is a discussion at this point as to what the problem may or may not be. Let me see, anything else, other items? I think that's it, Mayor.
Okay, to the council for any comments. I will add just a couple. We appreciate you coming. It has been very interesting, and I was a little surprised because I was caught off guard because I hadn't heard anything about any issues with Chesterfield. And although I have heard before many make comments about how much they enjoy living there. Chesterfield's an important part of our city, and so glad that you have the interest to show up, and we appreciate your comments. Certainly different from most of the issues we talk about. No one seems to notice or pay attention, so thank you. Let's see, I'm just trying to think. Most of them went on that. There was the yard sale issue. Yeah, I'm concerned about that. I happen to live by the southern boundary of the city and 4700 South, and it's in the county, and they are there every single weekend. Gentleman mentioned 12 times this year. They're there every Saturday over in my neighborhood, and they sell mattresses still wrapped in the new plastic. They'll have a stack of 4 or 5. So yeah, there are people who are in business and doing it in the wrong place. We'll have to look at that and see if there's anything that we can do. Anyway, we appreciate those public comments. We're going to move forward in our meeting now to our public hearing. We are going to address now our proposed budget for fiscal year 2016-2017. That begins July 1st and goes through June 30th of next year. Now you say we're already in the year. Yes, we approved a tentative budget to get us through until we could hold this public hearing. The proposed budget is takes what we did last year, and let's see if I state this right, and we're going to have a presentation, but a couple of general comments. The budget that is proposed is essentially the same budget as last year as far as items. In other words, I don't think we added any new programs or additional people, anything like that in the budget, generally speaking. Basically, it's the same budget.
Except for the actual specific requests that were made in the recommended modifications.
Oh, there were
to the
some,
budget, which
yeah.
are probably the subject of, or the main subject of what we're talking
Yeah.
about anyway.
And some of those, even in that additional request, were items that were simply last year's continuation.
Yes, that's also correct, Mayor, and in fact, that's the vast majority of those numbers, but it's more aligned with rising costs in
Yes.
items that we already have.
So there are some increase in costs. We also had, last year in our budget, we had funds that we put in there that I call one time. In other words, we took them from our fund balance or our rainy day fund or savings, whatever you want to call it. And in order to balance our budget and use funds that come in regularly, it's not good to hire people out of savings. It doesn't last very long. So you want it from revenues that will consistently come in from your property tax, the sales tax, etc. So generally we have that budget before us. Most of you have looked at that. There were some additional items that needed to be covered, some costs associated with increased medical costs, for example, contract increases, etc., that we need to pay. And so the decision is, how do we handle that? And so a proposed budget was brought forward. We approved initially just the initial one that was without those additional items. Now this budget that's before us includes those. And in that inclusion is a proposed increase in property taxes. And I believe that, does Jim have a presentation then for us?
Yes, sir. So
Why don't you take it from here? We're going to do a presentation, let our staff do that. So that'll give you a more clear picture of where we are.
Okay, yes, thank you, Mayor. So as Jim's walking up, we just introduced his presentation. So each year as we adopt or propose to adopt a budget, we'll have the finance director come and make a short presentation as to really basically how the budget process is conducted and what the numbers are in a very high scale level, what the numbers actually add up to. And he does that every year. In this particular year, as we're also proposing a property tax increase, then I'm also going to add some comments after Jim's normal presentation of explaining the rationale for why we're asking for that and what those recommendations include.
Thank you, sir. The council is quite familiar with the budget process, and so this is, I think a lot of this presentation will be new for those that are attending, and I appreciate the audience, and hopefully the information that I provide will be informative and provide you with an understanding of how the city puts together their budget. The budget that is currently proposed is the final budget for the fiscal year 2017. By state law, we are required to adopt a budget by council action that authorizes the city to operate for the next fiscal year. In the creation of this budget, there's a couple of things that come into play. First off is it helps the cities and municipalities promote efficiency in their operations. It does that by requiring us to go through and examine all of the revenues and all of the expenditures in each of the departments on an annual basis. That means that each of the departments need to know what's going on, that the council needs to be informed. We do this through the strategic planning retreat, and throughout the year we answer questions and provide reports that allow you to keep your finger on the pulse of the city's operations. So there should be no surprises as we continue to operate. Also, the budget is it's a public document. It's something that we file with the state auditor's office. We file it on our website, and we also prepare it to GFWA standards, which is the Government Finance Officers Association standards, which require us to provide a document that is transparent, clear, balanced, and in consistent format so that anybody can pick it up and take a look at it and understand how the city's operated. The conformance to those standards, the city's actually won an award. It's a national award for that program for the last 25 years. So we feel quite confident that we have a good document that people can understand if they can pull it out and take a look at it. And we're always willing to help people understand that if they have questions. There's a number of things that drive the budget and go into its preparation that help us maintain efficiency within the city. Just like any other operation, there's a lot of things that continue to increase throughout the year. These costs include rising healthcare costs, employee benefits, utility costs, and the maintenance and replacement of aging buildings and equipment. The economic environment also indicates that we're going to have a year, probably this next year, with flat growth and modest income from our traditional revenue sources. These include, and we'll talk about a little bit later, modest growth in sales tax, building permits and fees. Because we are a service organization, approximately 65% of our budget goes towards personnel costs. So there's not a lot of flexibility when it comes to managing those expenses without impacting services. So when there are changes in healthcare costs, which I think most people have experienced, changes in wages, which we need to address on an annual basis in order to maintain our current staff, and also to attract people to come and fill those vacancies which we have. Those need to be addressed by management, and they do require an adjustment in the revenues. Another thing that we do is we take the city's council's direction to maintain service levels within the city within acceptable boundaries. Service levels for, like, for example, how many police officers will we have on the street? How well will our parks and our streets be maintained? Or how often will our trash be collected? Those kind of things are actually determined and run by the budget. The expenditure projections, as I mentioned, are largely driven by the strategic plan of the City Council. The City Council determines what sort of services the city will need, and then they tell the staff, and the staff finds ways to make the revenues meet those projections. They include personnel costs associated with providing public safety, streets maintenance, parks, recreation, and sanitation, and the administrative costs of improving and maintaining facilities and services. Specific issues that must be addressed are the continuing depreciation of buildings, roads, and other infrastructure. These all wear out over time and must be maintained and in some cases replaced. These costs are ongoing and they continue to increase each year. Because the city is a service organization, the expenses incurred with employee costs are often impacted by the health care and the wages, and those tend to be one of the major issues we have to address on an annual basis. This next slide gives you a summary of what this year's general fund budget looks like. Now, the general fund budget, for those that are not familiar with the city's budget, is the operations of the city. That's where you'll see the costs of operating a police department, operating Parks and Rec, our public works. It also encompasses the operational transfers that we have that go into covering things like the fitness center, cultural center, any debt service obligations that we have. Those are included in here. While overall revenues remain relatively flat, we do expect about a 1% increase in revenues and expenses this year. Again, we present a balanced budget, and that, of course, that is by law. And in that balanced budget, I'm sure Mr. Pyle will discuss this, but there are a lot of items that we'd like to be able to do with the existing resources, but we've also felt the need to propose some adjustment in the property taxes. This next slide graphically represents how the revenues are distributed in the city and how the expenses are used. Approximately 1/3 of our revenues come in the form of property taxes, approximately 1/3 through sales tax, and the other third is through user fees and licenses. The actual percentages are 38% property tax, 34% from sales taxes, and about 28% from franchise taxes, fees, fines, and permits. We feel like that's a pretty good balance of revenues. However, many of those revenues the city does not have the ability to influence. Sales taxes are influenced by the health and strength of the economic development, but they're also influenced mostly by the economic strength of the region, both nationally and locally. So as the economy goes, so our sales tax collection goes. We're anticipating a moderate growth in the next year. We've been on a tear for probably about 8 years now, and I expect that to probably start to turn around, and we need to be able to manage the resources within the city so that we have the strength to withstand another fiscal bump. Expenditures show that about 41% of our expenditures go directly towards public safety. That would be police and fire. The remainder of the budget goes to public works, goes to parks and rec, goes to community and economic development, and the other administrative and support functions of the city. Some of you may be familiar with this slide. This is actually a screenshot of a calculator that we have available on the website for anybody to go ahead and put in the value of their property and get an estimate of what their property tax bill might look like. The circle on the top is the total estimated property tax for all the different taxing entities from a typical property in West Valley City. There are different property taxing entities within the boundaries of the city, so this may or may not apply directly to your property, but it's pretty close. These are the main ones there. So suffice it to say that West Valley City collects about 26% of your total property tax bill. And with that 26%, the smaller circle gives an indication of how your budget is spent, which was how I'd outlined in the previous slide. So you can go onto our website, plug your number in, and that'll give you some kind of an estimate as to what the city's doing with your money and how much money they would collect. This year, this is a notice that that was published in the newspaper. Some of you may have seen this. This was published a couple of times. The format, the calculation, everything is actually done by formula and by the state. This includes a property tax increase of 2 parts for the city, and it's a property tax adjustment. Part of it is for what's called the judgment levy. Now, this is a situation where larger businesses that have gone into the county through the Board of Adjustments have protested the property assessment value of their property, and they claim that their property tax has been excessive for either 1 year or a number of years. Through that process, a judgment is awarded to them, and they are issued a rebate which comes out of the revenues of the city in 1 year. Essentially what they've said through that judgment is that the business that has received the judgment or the rebate has been overpaying their taxes for whatever period they specify, which would conversely imply that everybody else has been underpaying their taxes. This judgment levy process allows the city to go back and adjust their rate, adjust the revenues that they collect through property tax so that they are even with the previous year plus new growth. Another word on property tax is that property tax is not a dynamic number, and this is by state code. The revenues that we collect 1 year to the next are actually flat unless the city council takes action. The only growth we get is for new construction. So if somebody builds a new building, we will get an increase in property tax for that building. However, if the value of your home goes up, you don't pay any more taxes on that. Now, I know when you look at your individual bill, that may vary, but overall, if you take all of the homes, all the businesses within the city, if values rise, the property tax rate actually goes down so that the city continues to collect the same amount of money. The other portion of the property tax adjustment that we're proposing in this budget is $2 million, and that represents about 8.4% of the city portion of the property tax bill, which is about 2% of your overall tax bill. That property tax adjustment is an adjustment in the revenue. That would be ongoing, and it's required that we hold a public hearing to make those adjustments. I think that concludes what I have.
Okay, thank you, Jim. So, council, as I mentioned, although we don't do this every year, and we don't ask for property tax increase every year, because we are this year, I wanted to make a couple of comments myself as to why we're asking for that increase and what the current situation is that faces the city economically and how we're approaching that. First, I actually wanted to take a quick step back and talk about our usual means now of getting through the budget year. First, I'd like to, of course, acknowledge and illustrate we always have increases in expense every year. I think if we may not all agree as to how we should approach those, I think we all certainly recognize that costs go up on an annual basis for almost everything. Sometimes we have changes, like for example, this year fuel went down, but then other costs went up, and I'll talk a little bit more about those later. But usually what we do, instead of asking for a property tax increase, is run down the list of our tools that we have in order to avoid that situation. So for example, first and foremost, of course, what we try to do as much as possible is limit our expenditures. And this particular year, we found it unavoidable in a number of instances, as is usual, but a couple of probably illustrative ones that are specific to the situation we find on ourselves might be of interest to you as a council, although you've already heard this, and the audience at large as they are out there. So two examples quick. Our police department and their police officers, as we've recovered out of the recession out of the last, what was that, 2007, 2008, 2009 era, have been very patient with us and have worked with us, and for a number of years coming out of the recession, they, along with all the employees in the city, got no raises of any kind for probably a period of 3-4 years. And after that, in the succeeding years, they actually got raises, but they were fairly minimal in terms of a step increase at a pretty low percentage rate. And what that ended up doing over the last few years is putting us out of market in a very, very competitive environment here in this last year. We finally reached a breaking point where we came to the council and, as you know, proposed a market increase for them. And that increase in and of itself is about $740,000, which we really don't have any way to cover. Another example of an increase that we're facing this year that we don't normally do, and in fact have been very successful compared against the average nationally, is health insurance. Nationally, you'll usually have a health insurance increase on average of about 15% annually across everybody. And we've been very fortunate to be able to, through the work of our HR staff and the good, frankly, medical histories, fortunate, of our employees to usually hit about 6% increase on average is what we have seen across those years. Well, this year we happen to have a bad claim and experience year, and what that resulted in was a health insurance across the city increase of almost $800,000. I can't remember exactly what it was, but close to that. And so those are just a couple of examples of expenditure increases we had this year outside of the norm. So again, first tool we usually employ is to limit our expenditures as much as we can, and we're usually very successful in that, as is demonstrated by the fact that we haven't asked for a property tax increase in 5 years. I believe it was the last time we did that. We've been able to use these other tools to avoid that. The second tool we use is to use our economic development effort and our recruitment and our retention abilities to bring as much business as we can to the city and strengthen the business we do have. And that's also very successful, but only has a limited reach, I guess is the way to put it. Our business, if you want to look at it from a capital investment standpoint and growth, sales tax generation, usually will lead us to an increase from a revenue from that source standpoint of about 2% or between 2 and 3% a year, which is good, but that's also only about a third of the expenditure budget. So even when we're very healthy in that area, it only covers a limited amount of whatever expenditure increases we might see in any given year. But combining the revenue generation with the expenditure limitation, that's one of the main ways with which we avoid that request. A third method that we use, and the mayor referred to this earlier, is we also strive to maintain a very healthy rainy day fund, or what technically known as the fund balance. And if we're maintaining that healthy level of that, sometimes we're able to draw on that and also not ask for any kind of increases. But over the years, sometimes you also run into the cyclical nature of the economy, and you draw that down and you get to a level where you're not comfortable of recommending another draw from that. And although we are actually recommending a expenditure from the fund balance this year for a capital purchase, which is for the light fleet, that's about $1 million expenditure on an annual basis. That's all we were asking for out of this year. We didn't feel like it was prudent to draw that down any further. Not that that's not still an option, we just don't recommend it or advise it as a prudent option. And then as a last resort, amongst all the other things we try and attempt, property tax is a discussion. Property tax increases are a discussion that we also annually have. And there's also a debate as to how to approach that. Should we be doing that on a very small, couple of percent a year basis that matches a price index inflation rate, or should we be waiting the longest length that we possibly can, and then in that manner not have to impose those increases on the citizens as we might otherwise. And so there's no real right or wrong answer to that or a decision on that philosophy, but it's one that you as a council and certainly we as a staff have every year. And if you average out what we're looking at from a property tax increase this year, it's actually a little bit across those 5 years, probably close to what we would have done if we had done an increase on an annual basis of slightly around 2%, maybe a little bit less than 2% on an annual basis. Again, it's not a right or a wrong choice, it's just simply a choice as to what to pursue from a policy standpoint. So here we are 5 years on from the last one. We're asking for approximately, whatever it was again, 9%, including the judgment levy. And so yes, we are asking for that. Now, a couple other points I just wanted to go over in discussing that. Again, I mentioned, I think we all agree, however we discuss or debate how to approach it, we all agree and we know that costs rise from a year-to-year basis. Across the years that I've been in city management, I think I started out when I was young and naive, and you would have these sorts of discussions, and I would think that by my sparkling intellect, we'd have these discussions, and I'd be able to convince people of my logic that this was the thing we should be doing, and I proceed forward that way. Rapidly over the years, my idealism maybe on that side has reduced more to the, I'm simply at this point trying to convince people I'm not actually insane in proposing these sorts of actions and increases. But one thing I definitely have learned as well in that discussion and across that time is I think more and more across the years, government, life, the economy, all of our lives, it gets more and more complex, and we get more disconnected from what those tax dollars are actually providing. And although that's simpler to understand on, say, the local level than the federal level, it's still really difficult to understand, hey, why am I paying, in my particular case, $2,000-ish a year overall for property taxes, and how is that all divided up? We all look at our bill, and there's 12 different lines or more on there, and what is it going to? And so I thought I'd take just a quick second and talk about that too. From an average bill, and Jim showed the slide up there, which isn't up there right now, and I don't need it up there, but it's about $500 on a $200,000 house here in the city, and of that, it's a pretty interesting division. Of that $500 on average, you spend about $13, well, it's about $43 a month total. And for that service, you're getting about $13 a month towards police services. You're getting about $6, a little bit less a month towards fire services. And you are spending other dollars on administrative services. Like, for example, you're spending about $1 a month on legal services, about $1 a month on accounting and finance services, about that same amount for planning and zoning and that sort of thing. A lot of these services, a lot of times people say, cut them out of the budget. They don't do anything, and they're of useless, worth to me. And so that actually does head us down another discussion as well, which is, okay, what do we value? Do we value public safety more than others? If so, how should we approach that question? And we do that as well. But I did just want to put in a plug for all of our knowledge and understanding to that effect, which is even those other dollars are hugely important to the running of a city. If you didn't pay that $1 a month for those auditing and financial services, those are very important to having checks and balances in place to making sure that the other dollars aren't being misspent or wasted or fraudulently used. Same thing from a legal standpoint. We have that $1 a month that's being spent on lawyers, and nobody's really all that thrilled about paying lawyers, but they're necessary in this day and age to defend us, to write up proposed ordinances that are defensible from a action standpoint, even when we're having debates about what do we do with our zoning, agriculture, uses, what's reasonable to limit and not limit, all those sorts of things. Those are necessary services. Another point that I wanted to make along that line is that, as the mayor mentioned, in the overall budget as it was originally proposed, it was a flat budget. There were no increases whatsoever. And then we came back with a recommended budget that included about $2.8 million in added costs. And a couple of those costs were actual added recommendations. Like, for example, there's $150,000 in that recommendation for assistant fire chief. Our fire chief has two assistant fire chief positions, or had two assistant fire chief positions in the past. One of those is currently vacant, and the other one was actually removed from the budget shortly after the last recessionary time. And he very, in a teamwork mode and understanding the needs of the city and the straits that we were in, came into us and said, hey, I can do without that deputy chief position or assistant chief position. And we actually took that out of the budget. And here for the last 3 years, he has been to me and saying, hey, you know, Wayne, we did without that as long as we probably should and could. I've got incident command issues out there on the scene when we're fighting fires and at other incidents where we require that sort of help, and I'd like to have that position back. And for the last couple of years, that really hasn't been feasible, so we haven't approved it. I think we may have discussed it, might have even proposed it, but we haven't got there to actually restoring that position. This year, out of that 2.8 million, 150,000 of it is that position. So that's an actual addition that we are recommending. Another item which is an addition to the bottom line, but it's not a new service, is the insurance one that I was using as an example, around $700,000, $800,000 in the health insurance increase. Anyway, that's just the difference between what is just continuation of stuff we really pretty much already have to pay for, and another example of something that, yes, we are asking for as an addition, even though really it's not even an addition from services. This is deleted services that we're still trying to recover from the last recession. Do we have to do that? No. Do we have alternatives to do instead of that? Yes. Are those prudent? Obviously, I don't think so, or we wouldn't have recommended the 2.8 million in increases. Now, another note to the 2.8 million, and this goes back to the public safety versus other discussion. Council challenged us to find as much as we could of that from regular expenditures, and we did that. We went back and we cut our expenditure budget, and the result of that was, of the 2.8 million, $1 million of it is non-public safety related expenditures, and that represents things like software purchases. It includes the non-public safety portion of that health insurance increase, all that sort of thing. So about $1 million of the 2.8. And of that $1 million, we found $800,000, or actually a little bit more than $800,000 in cuts on the non-public safety side to cover that. So in one sense, we've tried to direct, or again, limit as much as we can what we're asking from a property tax increase standpoint to the public safety realm. In the public safety realm, then, of course, if we covered $1 million or asked for $1 million out of that 2.8 as non-public safety, then obviously the 1.8, or it's actually, yeah, 1.8 million of that is public safety, direct related. And what that is the PD market increase I talked about a little bit earlier, things like that deputy chief position. It's the public safety portion of the health insurance increase, all those sorts of things. All of that 1.8 million is direct to public safety expenditure. So that leaves about a $200,000 amount there that we're asking for from a property tax increase. It is actually non-public safety, just as an example. Last thing I wanted to address on that, thanks for that, appreciate that. Is that you, Mr. Fembos? Nice to see you. Yeah. Also, I wanted to comment, yeah. Oh, never mind, I'll save that comment for later. Anyway, alternatives. What are the other things we could do to raise property tax increase? We could still draw more down from the fund balance. We've got enough money to do that. But again, we're going to have the same exact question next year. We'll have the same needs, probably more needs. And it didn't seem prudent to us from a staff standpoint to recommend doing that. We, in the last recession, were, as you know, down to the absolute bare state required minimums. And we did it, and we pulled through, and at that time, we even had to do a property tax increase for a portion of the expenditures, even after cutting literally millions of dollars out of the expenditure budget at that time. So we could do that. And I'm not here to predict doom and gloom. I don't foresee a recession on the horizon this year. Would we get through it? Probably yes. Would we be weakened or reduced in our ability to respond to a recession? Yes, we would. So therefore, that's where we're making the recommendation. So the other alternative basically would be to make other cuts if the council were to not approve the property tax increase. And I won't spend time going over how I've envisioned what those cuts would be, but I will say just from a general standpoint, as we've weighed what the other needs are, those would be almost entirely personnel cuts and positions. And we have ways to approach that. We could cut all the positions that we recommended. We could look at vacancies that we currently have at the city. And we could even look at existing positions within the city. But even in the end, after all of that, we would still be eliminating public safety positions. And again, I won't go through the detail, but we could, if council wants to, at some point in the discussion here. But my point also in sort of bringing that up again is to say that, yes, we don't have to do this property tax increase, also as we have discussed through the months. Should we? Yes, it's my recommendation. And in the best interest of the preservation, the viability and the sustainability of the city's budget and the progress that we have made over the last years in terms of providing services in the city, that we should do that. So with that, Mayor, I will make my comment.
Thank you. Next, that's the introduction of the budget, so that you have that information. Next, we will go to our public comment portion. And maybe we may come back to these again, to the having the screens down, but maybe we should raise those during the public comment period. It only takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get them back. Okay. So that everyone can see. What we will do is those who've signed up to speak, we'll begin with those. And as I promised, we'll now get to you. Officially, we open the public comment period, and we'll invite you to come forward to the microphone. What you say does need to be recorded. It's not a debate. You can say what you want, and that'll be recorded. It's public record. Anyone can review it. So just be mindful of that. What you say, others will hear and see, and it can't be erased. So the public comment portion is open. We will begin with John Frederickson. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor, and City Councilman and ladies. I live on 4700 South, 4598 South Woodgrove Drive, and we moved into the house in 2014 in January, and my property tax then was $1,700. Now it's up to $1,936, and I just wonder, on your budget here, you have a new item, which is JDG. What is that?
Mr. Pyle? Or?
It's a new item that says...
That's the judgment levy that he mentioned.
Oh, it is?
In Mr.
Okay.
Welch's presentation.
That's what I thought. But every year, the property tax goes up, and so does everything else, your homeowner's insurance and everything. It never comes down. And I can't see, some of the services are required, but some I think could be cut in administrative costs, such as the state basic school level and some of the other government entities on there, because all your utility bills go up and everything, and it is a never-ending cycle. And pretty soon you're going to force retirees such as myself, but I still work full-time, out of our houses because of the fact that the property tax is going to be probably another 5 years up to $2,500 to $3,000. I mean, that's a little bit, I've never seen a property tax go down in all my years. And I'm retired military and retired civil service and been around and owned quite a few houses, and it's the same thing all over. But I appreciate your time, and one thing I would like to say that's positive is you've got an excellent West Valley Police Department, because I've had them out a couple times. My security alarms went off, and they come out twice to check on us and see how we work, and I really appreciate that. But I don't appreciate the taxes starting to climb up. And being a retired federal employee, I know there's a lot of cuts out there. Because every day out on the highway, when I go out on the highway, I see government cars traveling back and forth, and sometimes in the early morning hours. And I know they're not, if they're the police department or something, that's fine, but if they're other government vehicles, you know, people taking them home and stuff. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jeff White.
Mayor, council members, all of you. My car was stolen for the third time out of my driveway. I love the police department. I like that they were there within, every time my car's stolen, they're there within like 20 minutes or so to take care of all the information. I also have neighbors who have liens on their homes because the lawn is too long. Why don't we take some of our officers on code enforcement, like Officer Young, who could enter any bodybuilding contest but is as nice and gentle as anyone I know, and move him to the police department. Take the services we don't need, like, well, code enforcement. Keep a few for the things we need, but eliminate some of that department and shift them. I understand that shifting doesn't always work. I also understand that people don't have a lot of money. We still haven't replaced the spare tire in my car and the jack that was stolen because we just don't have the money. And the insurance never seems to cover what they say it's going to cover. We all understand that. We have an aging population in this city. And while there's young people, young families moving in, we still have an aging population. And our retirees from the last census I saw, they're greater. They're on fixed incomes. There's got to be another way. And I understand. I understand a representative government. You all have a job to do, and that is to take in all this information and try to make the best decision for everyone. And I understand that. Sometimes I believe that a representative government, it's good to go to the public. If this is such a good idea, and you made a great case today, if this is such a good idea, put it on the ballot in November. We have a ballot coming, and we have an election coming up, and we have voting coming up. Let's put it on a ballot. 8,000 people in the last election, I believe it was, voted. So you only have to convince 4,001 people that this is a good idea. Put it to the voice of the people. Instead of you all taking the brunt of it all, put it to the people. Councilmember Christensen, last time we had a hearing on property tax increase, he made a brilliant point. We just had gone through a war zone. We were allowed to be kids in a candy shop. We could have fireworks for the whole month. And it sounded like it does when I listen to CNN and Iraq. It was a war zone. And you made the comment, if people can afford to burn money in fireworks, and I often wondered how people could afford so much in fireworks, because we couldn't, and neither could my neighbors. We had a couple fountains on the street in the whole neighborhood. And you said if they can afford that on entertainment for a couple of hours, why couldn't they afford property taxes? Well, I remember this last July, and I only heard war-zone noises for a couple of hours for a few nights. People don't have the money anymore to spend on fireworks, let alone a tax increase. We just don't have it. This is a good idea. Let's put it to the voice of the people. Let the people vote on it. November is only 3 months away. Thank you.
Jeff Reed.
Westlake. I have several handicapped people in my family. I'm dyslexic, my wife's hearing impaired, and I'm on a fixed income myself. And when my taxes go up, and see, my dad was a history major, and I studied history because I love history, even with my weird ways and things. When taxes go up and regulations go up, people starve. It's throughout history. Mao, Chow, Lenin, Hitler, throughout the history. It is proven fact that when regulations and taxes go up, the people will starve and people will be suffering. And we need to think about that. We need to find ways. And I agree with Jeff on what he said about code enforcement, because Mr. Powell told me one time when I was here that the Constitution did not mean what it said. He said to me that was a few years ago, but he said that, and it kind of irked me when he said that. Because we all have a right to practice what we preach. We have a right to have our freedoms and our rights to live how we like. And we need to respect our neighbors by trying to keep our yards clean. And I volunteered that we do a volunteer service for the code enforcement instead, where we go around and help those people who need the help, the elderly, the handicapped, that can't do it themselves, that are on fixed income. And I offered that to the community a few years ago. And I still offer it. If we could do that, where we can go and show that we're a community of service instead of a community of, because I've been cited more than once, and everything I got in my regular paperwork on that was a socialist mentality. Progressive socialist mentality always leads to that, and taxes are not the answer. I wish we can solve it better than that, but I have seen what happens through other areas of the country, and it's what's going to end up is we're going to have people live in the city. We already have friends that have left the city because of their animals and went to out where they can have their animals because of the regulations. People I know that are paying through here, and people that weren't allowed to do stuff because of politics. And I'm a firm believer in small government, small and down to the people. Let the people decide for themselves. Let's put it to a vote. Thank you.
Thanks for your spud. Sjoster? Shosted. Okay.
Good evening. You know, I'm retired, living on a fixed income, and when I can't afford something, I have to cut back on something else, not like you guys. Just, most of us out here know that these meetings are just a formality. Everything is pretty well decided back there. So we carry on anyway. It'd be great to have a job spending money that's other people's money. It'd be nice if you people, like the mayor did when he was running for this office, come out and see what's going on in your neighborhoods. Most of you don't know any idea what's going on out there. You're just going by what's told to you in your meetings back there. And I'd like to know what happened to the project engineer on 4400 South, between 32 and 3600 West, and that construction up there changing the storm drains. He was non-existent. The dust was everywhere all the time. It's still flying around because they haven't cleaned the road off. I hope that's not another one of our cuts. And our roads really look good. I gotta hand it to you guys. If you're in an airplane going over, the paint on them looks marvelous. We gotta fix the lumps and the valleys before we paint them. And I got another problem. One day, most of you guys, not all of you, most of you, will be on a fixed income. And when something comes up, you're going to have to manage it. You're not going to be able to go to someplace else and get it. So why can't we do that here? We love to spend everybody else's money. I think that's a silly job, it's a great job to have, but it's not good for the population. One last thing. It'd be nice if, I live in a single-family dwelling, used to be, and along with everybody in my neighborhood. Why can't we charge property tax to all the 8 or 10 families that live in a single house? What's wrong with that? I think you guys ought to take a look and see what's going on in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy Council.
This is kind of intimidating. Troy Council, 4812 West, 3850 South. This has been quite interesting. I noticed that a lot of the times the people that are addressing people is you guys. The whole time he's telling us what's going on. And yet his back is toward us. I thought we were in charge. I thought you guys worked for us. But it doesn't look like that's the case. But maybe it is. Maybe it is. I really don't know. But my question to you guys, how can you stick us all with services from other people like Utopia and make us pay for a service that we'll never get? And when you raised our property taxes 17 years ago, it was because Utopia, which none of us will ever get. And yet our taxes are raised for that. Now I'm hearing Utopia starting to pick up and sell to somebody. Why can't we use some of the money to that? And we got a hotel that's going belly up that we own, that we promised we wouldn't stick it to the people. And here we are. We got a hotel. Well, now we got a hotel, why don't we sell it? Why don't we rent it out? The thing I think we're all missing here, and it's really sad to hear it, there's people out there on set salaries, and they're scraping, even to put food on the table. And we're worried about cutting stuff from us. I mean, our government is going under. I'm sure you guys all know that. I don't think we'll make it to the next election, and if Hillary gets in, we're screwed. And so what it really comes down to, let's, for once, work together as a community. Let's talk to everyone. These people are all here for you guys. These people trusted you when they had you come in. Let's pay attention to them and quit going behind backdoor stuff and sticking it to them, because they're doing all they can to survive. Health insurance, I understand, but guess what? Obamacare, we've all got to pay it. I'm a single man and I have to pay for pregnancy insurance in case I get pregnant. This is the kind of nonsense that's going on in our country now. So why can't we work together and say, well, maybe we can do without this? I'm sure you wouldn't get a lot of complaints from people if we got rid of West Valley Fest or any of those things. I'm sure you wouldn't have any problem with people that you want to lose your home, or do you want to go and watch fireworks at West Valley Fest or something to that effect. But let's take what we have and cash in our resources of the mistakes we've made. I know we can't get out of Utopia, unfortunately. That just infuriates me. But good grief. Guys, put yourself in other people's shoes. They don't have the money for you to keep squeezing it out of us. Just because you have to tighten your belts, what are you doing to the people out there that are just having all they can do to put food on the table? That's all I got to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Dingwall.
Gentlemen, ladies, you might have heard from me before. I just moved to this area in 1967, and I'm just as good looking and charming and as humble as I've ever been. And, well, I've got my work clothes on because I have 2 part-time jobs. And I just want to tell you thank you for the tax increase, because I think maybe I can start working more intersections and help. you know, help supplement my income, because like I'm telling you, I'm good looking, charming and humble, and, you know, let's get her done. Mr. Bigelow, I can appreciate that you have time limitations on the comments and so forth, but I would really appreciate it if the council would consider, I mean, I really appreciate the charming, eloquent discussion that went on a little while ago, but we gotta have time limits up there too. Thank you.
Eugene Swanson.
Most of my concerns have already been presented, but I did have two questions. One is, as we take approximately $2.8 million out of the West Valley City economy with this tax increase, has there been a consideration of what reduction in sales tax will occur as a result of that? You mentioned you expect a small increase, but that's still going to affect sales tax revenue. Has that been considered? My other concern is, as was mentioned before, I really get the impression when we come to these that it's just a formality, that you've already discussed it, you've already made your decisions, and we're just part of the horse and pony show. Thank you.
See, Ed and Cheryl Blanchard.
Ed Blanchard, 3693 Sherrington. My wife signed up the list thinking it was just going to be an attendance list. We wasn't going to talk. And so as the meeting's gone on, one thing we ought to talk. She says, what are you going to say? So I'm just going to introduce myself and I'm going to turn it over to you. And she ran out. So she's out and about somewhere. But after listening to some of the comments, I thought, I might as well get my 2 cents in. I came here quite angry, and I'm probably going to leave here quite angry. I got my tax notice the other day, and it's gone up 34%. Okay? That's more than a third. Now, if you did that with your budget, there'd be no way for you to survive. I understand the principle of budgeting and government. Seen it for years in my career. And it is always so easy to sit down in rooms and start crunching numbers and saying this is what we need and this is what we've got to do. But as many of us here have heard already, people are on fixed incomes. Everything's going up for us as well. And we don't have the luxury of saying, I'm going to start taxing these folks. I mean, they might get my increase. And that'll cover the cost. We have to start cutting. I can't go to anybody and say, my costs have gone up, raise my salary, raise my monthly income. It's not happening. Went through many, many years of freezes. Wayne's talking about public safety and how they need the money. I agree 100%. They had a hard time for years and years. And we never got increases. And then when we retire, our retirement comes out a lot lower because we never got those increases. But we have to live with it. I used to look at my parents because my dad worked at Kennecott. Had a great retirement, I thought. They had a great retirement package, insurance, all those kinds of things. But as time went on, I started seeing how tight things got, how they all started pinching pennies and not doing a lot of things they had talked about doing. And I couldn't figure it out, and then I realized they spent a lot of money on their medications because their insurance didn't cover a lot of stuff. And so what little money they would get would end up going into medications, and so their costs would go up, and they had to adjust to make their budgets fit. So although it sounds good when you do your presentations and talk about everything, and you throw that little hook out with public safety, because everybody buys into that. That's like Sheriff Winter used to always do when it was budget time. They'd throw out, well, we're just going to have to turn the criminals loose. We can't put them into jail. Even though we had pods that weren't open, when people bought into that, we got to give them more money. I think you guys need to look at it the same way we do. We have to tighten our budgets. We got money that we have to make go around. And yeah, it'd be nice if everybody had all the money in the world where you could do the things you need to do. But if you don't, live within your budget. Our departments were given a certain amount of money and told, okay, now make 20% cuts. And that's where you have to learn to operate. And so we had to make it work. And I think that's where we need to be here in West Valley. Like I say, an increase in my taxes of 34% is criminal. That's not right. And somebody here said, well, as your property values go up, it doesn't change your taxes. Well, it did. My house last year was worth a certain amount. This year, now they're saying it's worth this amount up here. No, it's the same house. But now my property taxes have gone up. So I would hope that you're going to listen to us. There's been many of us here that have said already today that it's probably going to fall on deaf ears. I hope not. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Black.
This evening as I drove over here, I thought, as you seen me limp up through the aisle here, it hasn't been easy to walk up here. I thought, if that parking lot out there is full and I've got to walk a long ways, I am not going to come into this meeting. And as I came in the lot, there was plenty of parking places. And as I come in here, there was a list for people to sign that wanted to speak. If their ideas or thoughts on what's going on in the city, that list wasn't very long. And as I've sat here and thought and listened that I'm the last one to talk, I had a lot of things in my head that I wanted to say, but first of all, I don't know if it's okay if I read an article out of the paper that was there a week or so ago from a man that I have an awful lot of respect for, that lived in this city longer than I have. I've been here since '63. He owned a business, a lumber yard, and a lumber business down this street before all these big, high-paying businesses that should be paying taxes were being taxed that heavily. And he has had things to say about where our city has been for years. But anyway, I want to quote him with one thing here, and I'll tell you who he is, so if you don't know. You know Bill Barton. You know him very well. he wrote an article in the newspaper that said, as a former resident, I think it is downright shameful that West Valley City leadership is once again asking for a property tax increase. This comes on top of an obscenely large increase only 4 years ago. And I remember when Bill made that comment. And when you consider that West Valley City has seen healthy revenue increases each year, when you compare the basic property tax levy of West Valley City to surrounding cities, it seems really ridiculous for them to be asking for another increase. I feel very sorry that the city leadership cannot manage their finances in a more prudent manner rather than dig deeper into the pockets of the property owners again. When compared West Valley's present property tax rate to other cities, you find that it is double and even triple some of the surrounding cities. While West Valley City's basic levy is a 0.004169, South Salt Lake is a 0.002303, Murray is a 0.001522, Sandy is a 0.001254. And you can see their scheduling tax rates in utah.gov. So he isn't just quoting off the top of his head. I'm on a fixed income like most of these people here. I worked as a pressman for printing companies, worked there on heavy machinery up and down catwalks. Both of my knees have been replaced. I've got cataracts that I've got to dig up $2,000 to pay for them because my insurance won't pay for it. How many of you have got insurance coverages that cover you to the rate that you have to dig deep in your pocket to finish them up on when he says that insurance is going up? And I know for a fact several years ago that the city manager here was making a lot of money. I don't know what he makes now, but it's an awful lot more than I made running a printing press at $30,000 a year. And I felt that I went to school to learn how to put ink on paper. I didn't go to college, but we had to learn every day. Every day was a new experience. And as you came around wanting to be voted back into this job, it must be a pretty good paying job. The city council and mayor, all of you came to my house and my acquaintance of work. You was that you was gonna work on a program of lower taxes and less raising of taxes. So I can see why this hall is empty. Confidence is low. I hope you fellers see a way to bring that back up and fill this building with people that have got healthy comments for our good West Valley City that we've got to live in. I loved this city when I was Granger and I moved in here. We had a lot of great people. Where are they? They've all moved out. So I can't, but I leave that comment with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That's all the people who have signed up to speak. Is there someone I missed?
Yeah, you missed me. I came to 2 meetings tonight and got to speak at one. My name is Paul Adams.
Okay, come on up.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
have a comment about an issue here that was brought up. The fact that you guys seem to, in your wisdom, felt it was better not to get a little bit of money every year, but you should get a great big bunch whenever you need it. That's what I understood. 1.5% a year, if you'd have done that the last 4 years, everybody would have been able to squeeze because we were experts. We really know how to squeeze. Most of us work on a situation where we get a check from the government called Social Security. For 4 years, the government's never give us a dime. Not a dime. They sit there and said, oh no, cost of living has not went up. There is no cost of living. There's no inflation. You guys are doing great. You guys can just simply say, hey, catch the Social Security people. If you can't get enough from them, we got the government pensions and we've got all the independent pensions and what have you. This is unfair to take and wait 3 or 4 years and say, bam, now figure out how to do it because we need it. That was what you did 4 years ago. Now this is 4 years, you do it again. Who takes it? We got no money this time. The government used to have us on a little cost of living. There's no cost of living anymore. You do not get a pension increase. But you guys, I envy you. I wished I was on your side of the table. I'm needing more money to do this with, not a problem. I got all these folks out here will raise their property taxes. Shame on you. When it comes down to our new elections that's going to be coming around, I've got a perfect record since I was 21 years old and able to vote at any kind of election in the places that I live. I have voted, and I've never missed a vote for any election. 21 years I've lived in this valley, right here in West Valley, and I've never missed an election. I won't miss the next one. The only difference is I'm going to be out there rooting for some changes, because changes are needed. And I think it's obvious to everybody here. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. I think that you guys need to go back and take a good look at this. Whether anything comes of it, it's hardly to be believed because I've never seen much come from any of these meetings. But if something does, that would be nice. And hopefully, I'm looking at you gentlemen and ladies, you've got the power. Why don't you exercise it in a much better way? Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Although you've not signed up, is there anyone else who really wants to speak? Looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4. No, if you've spoken already, we'll go with those who...
There's time left over, I'd like to say one more.
Okay. So, that was in the public comment portion. So, we'll take this gentleman over here, and when you come, give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Levi Card. I live at 2555 South Fargo Street. Well, this is the first meeting I've ever attended like this. This is the first time I've ever spoken to a group of people like this. And I noticed that, and these guys back here especially noticed this, when the words were coming from you guys up here, I couldn't keep my eyes open. I was bored of it. It was monotone. It was stuff that I didn't believe because there's no passion to what you're saying. It's reading off of what you have already put down, what you think you need to tell people. It's not what you believe. When anyone came up to the podium to speak, I was more than awake. I wanted to hear what they had to say. I could hear it in their voice that they were passionate about what they were saying. And to me, I'm a 25-year-old single male. I built my own house in West Valley City in Chesterfield 3 years ago. I work my ass off to pay for it. To pay for the increases in taxes and the increases on everything in life, it's hard to keep up. Most of these people on fixed incomes, I mean, they understand the budget, but I don't have a fixed income. If I don't go to work, if I don't kick butt and put in my 40 to 60 hours a week, I can't survive. I can't pay my bills. I can't have any luxuries and go out and do things. I'm still in my work clothes. That should say enough about it. Increasing on us and the people individually is it's not right. There's got to be other ways. And it could take more time and more thought and more process into the situation to figure it out, but you can make an impact on people that are more willing to do more for their city, for their council, than you would if you take from them. So you have more people that are going to support your decisions and support each other within a city by working together to resolve things as a whole, rather than sitting on the other side of the fence and taking as you need. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm John Sanders. I live at 2543 Derby Street in Chesterfield, West Valley City. I'm a member of the Plumbers and Steamfitters Union, have been for 41 years. I was the president for 10 years, and we combined our locals and made one big local in the state. I was on the finance committee for 17 years. We elected people in our locals because we trusted them, and we had faith in them. And they got to be in that position, and they negotiated our contracts. I was on the negotiating committee several times. We did good. I think everybody here has been voted in by your peers. Is that not right? You too. I know he did because I voted for him. He's my man. You got my vote. Maybe there's some way you can help these people that are on these fixed incomes. Maybe you can help them out. I know you have to have money. I know this because I sit on the finance committee for 17 years, and we had all these budgets we had to meet. Everybody has to do that. Like I said, everybody voted you guys in. It was with your peers, the people that you live in your area voted you in to represent us. All I can say is I hope you do the best you can do for us with our money. Because everything is going up. Everything in the world just goes up and up and up and up, and it's not starting. It's not stopping. There's 90% of the wealth in the whole United States is owned by 1% of the people, the very wealthiest. It's really sad that it's gone there. And I don't think it's local government. I think you guys are doing the best you can do, and as good as, and I love where I live, and I love West Valley, and I support you guys. So do the best you can do. That's all I can say. And if you can help out the retirees, and I'm a retiree, but man, I'm doing all right. So if you can help them out.
Thank you. And then we have one more over here.
I can tell already I'm not going to be very popular. Mike Markham, 3008 Alice Circle. You know, my property taxes went up. My property taxes went up $44.58 a year. Do the math, that's $372 a month, 86 cents a week, 13 cents a day. I'm a small business person. I know there's a lot of hidden expenses in trying to run a business. I run a water company. There's a lot of hidden expenses. You guys have to put up with me on a lot of cases. I don't envy your job. I've been told I'm one of the meanest people on our water system. But but I kind of have to support this increase. I liked seeing Public Works in my neighborhood this week grinding out the bad spots in the road, getting ready to resurface it next year. I like it when I see the police department drive through. I loved it when the fire department responded to my wife as she was dying with cancer. They got right there, they took care of her, they took care of the problem. I don't want to give up any services. I want the services to keep coming. If I wanted to complain, I would complain to Summit County where I have a small piece of property where I pay substantially more because it's not my primary residence. I get no services for them. I can't vote for the people that raise my taxes. That's taxation without representation. But what I get here, I can see what I get from this city. You know, I can see the street repairs. I love when Public Works comes through my neighborhood and plows the street. I see a lot of benefits. If I had, you know, and you guys know I complain about a lot of stuff. And I don't agree with everything that you do. I disagree with the parts where you give wealthy investors perks and bennies to come to town. But as being a business person, I'm starting to understand more of that. But you got to have money to run a business. This is a business. You can't run a business by going in the hole. So I agreed with this gentleman here, and I brought it up to some of you before. Maybe we need a 1.5%, 2% increase every year, rather than hit people all at once. It might be easier to work in the budget. But we can't have we can't have tax increases in election year. And that's all I'll say about that. I won't say anything more there. But I have to support the property tax. I'm a small businessman. I'm filing for my Social Security next month. But I plan for what might happen and what might not happen. So I appreciate everything you guys do. I may complain a lot, but I appreciate what you do. It's not an easy job. Thanks.
Thank you. The back. Yeah, you said you wanted to speak again. Oh, looks like we got, oh, that's fine.
John Frederick, 4598 South Woodburg Drive. I've got one thing to say. If I come in with an appeal on this property tax because I think it's too high, I was going to do this last year, and I was talking to 3 neighbors, and they said don't do it because of the fact that they're going to increase your property tax if you come in with an appeal to lower it based on circumstances. My neighbor's house is $5,000 less than I am right now. And I would solicit a lot of other neighbors, but I would encourage you gentlemen and ladies to please, please get the chain of command out of there and get these, whoever does the evaluations of the properties, to be honest and forthright, and don't come in with a chip on their shoulder because they got to come out and evaluate a property. Because being a retired federal employee, I know how the chain of command works, and you're always trying to impress your boss. Well, get whoever does this, get them out there and do the job and stop trying to come out with a chip on their shoulder and increase the property tax if you appeal it. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, what I wanted to say is I might have been a little forceful in what I did say. And I do have respect for the West Valley City departments. But I do think that some of us need some consideration on where we're at, because like they said before, every one of you will be out on the street one day either kicking cans or wishing your Social Security was higher. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Was there another one here?
Kathy G. Newsmeyer, 6293 West, 3500 South. I've been a resident of West Valley/Hunter since 1955, give or take a year or two. I would just like to say that hopefully we can all live within our means. We can all support each other. I'm thankful for the services I receive, but take into consideration us older citizens, and I understand we need increases to cover costs. Let's make them reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that everyone now? Okay, one more, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come and say something. I was amazed. Oh, my name is Mike Millay, 4556 South, 3245 West.
Thank you.
In West Valley City, Utah. I love the city. I've been a promoter of crime prevention and I've done quite a bit. I think I've helped, and I was just devastated when I seen the taxes and a 20% increase. It was difficult for me. Another gentleman mentioned 30, and I'm thinking is really what happened. I think is that somehow we didn't get noticed that there was going to be this much of an increase, and I'm on fixed income now, and it's very difficult for me to come up with that kind of money. So I appreciate all the services again that I receive, and helping with crime prevention is a big part. Whenever I see something that's out of the ordinary, I make a phone call, and I usually have an officer come very quickly to help. I really appreciate that. And the roads, wonderful. I was and then reading this article from Bill Barton that was mentioned earlier. It indicates that our levy is so much greater, and I don't understand why. And I guess I'll look into that further. And I hope this is correct. That's what he put in here. It sounded like he knew what he was talking about. But I'll look into that. I'll be paying more attention to the city and how I can help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Okay.
I'll go fast.
Okay.
I know most people know me don't believe that, but I'll go fast.
Jeff White, 4081 Westlake Avenue. 3 quick thoughts. One, there's nobody here. Councilmember Nordfeld and I the other night were talking, and he said if more people cared about the city to get involved, maybe this wouldn't be happening this night. Perhaps the public notice system could be different. I've contacted the news agencies, and I've been putting comments on comment boards, and they all get moderated out. I don't know if anyone really knows that this meeting is here and what's being discussed. Perhaps we'd have 500 people here if they did. That would be cool if there was no room in the parking lot. I was driving up thinking I want a parking space, but if I have to walk, that'd be awesome. Here's a thought that someone gave me once years ago. Fixed income. How do we address people on a fixed income when there's tax increases and other increases? My insurance plan is simple. We pay for it. First $3,000 of our insurance comes out of my pocket. And then there's an 80-20 plan. What if I was on a fixed income? Could I afford that? No. I can't do it on a working income. And this is not a fix for now, and I understand that. What if there was a way that we could sit down, and there is a way. I don't know what it is, but put people when they retire, their property and taxes stay stable. They don't increase. They never increase. You get on a fixed income, no more property tax increases. I've got half of my street that I live on are retired, and half of those are widows. They can't afford this. Fix this so that they don't have a property tax increase. You retire, you're done. You're on Social Security, no more property tax increases. That's not going to fix the state or the federal level, but why not here? I also remember, and this is my last point, And the Councilmember Bueller, he's told me before he's the most caring man, and it was hard to make this decision 4 years ago. And I expect you're facing that decision now. Several years ago, we had a discussion about driveways, whether they should be cement, pavement. And it was brought up in this meeting, what about gravel, so that people who don't have a big income can put gravel down and park on that. And Mayor Nordfeld, he actually made a proposal to the council. Let's table this discussion and discuss the proposal to have a win-win and help the city, help the people in the city to be able to, they can't afford pavement and cement, let them have gravel. Let's have that discussion. And that's why I brought up earlier, let's have a discussion about putting this to a vote of the people. Let's have that discussion. That was one of the neatest council meetings I've ever been a part of, because I really felt like the city council was listening. Not to me, but to everyone around them. I don't believe a city of services. I love my services. I'm alive because the fire department came to my house at 3 a.m. in the morning and hauled me out of my bathroom and to a hospital. I'm here because of services. I was an EMT. I've helped people out of their house. I love services, but a city is not services. A city is families and individuals. A city is people. That's why I'm here tonight, because of my family and my neighbors, their families, my friends. And thank you for letting me come up one last time.
Thank you. Did we say more? Okay. Then I will close the public hearing portion. We'll come back to the council. Thank you of those of you who have stayed. And I think you might hear some interesting comments, and I have several. And I'm going to make some of them now because some of the things need to be clarified. So that you know, I'm a CPA, so I live by monotone. I'm sorry the guy left who didn't like monotones. That means I'm excited when I speak like this. But I also understand numbers. Oh, he's still here. Oh, he said over there. He moved. Okay, I'm glad you're still here. Because I am passionate about numbers. Be very careful about numbers. Bill Barton, and I read his letter too, and I've talked to Bill, and I gave the same speech to him. You compare the rate, it will mislead you. I'm an accountant. I can give you numbers. I can mislead you any way I want and use facts that can be supported. Your property taxes are based on so many factors that you have to be careful. For example, the rate in Sandy is lower because their property values are higher. They collect more money with their rates than we do at our higher rates. And of course in Park City, they hardly have to set any rate because their property values are so high that they collect a ton of money. Well, I say just be careful. Look at that. Some of you, your taxes went way high, and the city doesn't control all of that. We control a small portion. Don't blame us for the 34% or the 20%. You were actually undervalued in previous years, and the county reassesses that and raises it up. It's not a level playing field. 1 year, you'll be undercharged. Another year, you'll be overcharged. Hopefully, in the long run, it works out. If you want to get into that discussion, I can sit down and have it too with you. And I'll take a half hour, an hour, and it'll be great. We'll have lots of fun. Fixed income. Very much aware of that. By the way, there are two of us on fixed incomes on the council. And when you talk about, well, let's not raise taxes, let's cut some services. Now remember, you can suggest something, but to the person sitting next to you, that would be the very worst thing of all that could be done, because that's his favorite program, his most necessary program. And I'm going to come back to that cutting. Because, well, no, I'll discuss it now, the cutting. I'm actually in favor of that, and you're going to see how I vote. And the reason why is for a couple of reasons. One, I said I would when I ran for mayor. I said I will not raise taxes until, I leave it open, until I'm convinced, me personally, that our government is spending all the money effectively and efficiently. So you know how I'll vote. Spending other people's money is difficult for me. There was nothing backdoor about this. We've held a number of meetings. All of the information has been out on the internet. We can give you as much information as we can, but we can't make people look at it. The few of you actually listened a little bit, and look how few were here. But don't think it was done in the back room. It wasn't. By law, we cannot take a vote or a position until we come here and vote. We can't make that vote before we get here in front of you. And I would say to you, I can cut, because I've done it before. I've cut government budgets before, a lot more than we'll ever do here. They did it here, but I did it on a larger scale at the state level. But I have heard and talked to those who are on fixed incomes. I've talked to those who are young families who don't have a lot of money. But remember that it's not free. So there's this scale. If you don't increase taxes, then, you know, if costs have gone up, you've got to cut those costs. It's pretty straightforward. You know, it's not hard, but to do it wisely is hard, because it takes a lot of effort. And I will assure you that having done that, and having cut people's jobs and put them out on the street, and yes, my name was on that state legislative bill to do that, was not easy. And I laid awake a lot of nights worrying about it and trying to get it right. But we tried to be as fair as we could. But you can't have both. You either cover the costs or you reduce the cost, one or the other. Because we can't, you know, it just doesn't come free. The city has made decisions in the past, Utopia was mentioned and others, where a lot of money got committed. Wish we could go back and change it, but we can't. We are where we are. And each member of this council is going to do their very best to make the best decision they can. Having talked with neighbors, having listened to the discussion, having listened to staff, having read the letters to the editors, we're going to do the best we can, and you'll find that not all our answers are the same. You know, it's a difficult thing to do to be in elected office. And the easiest thing of all is to not do the duty and to say, well, let's just put it to a vote of the people. A few things should go to them. But the routine monthly, annual, ongoing budget is not one of those. If you had to vote on that, most likely you would not even understand what you were voting on. I'm a CPA. I've spent my whole career in budgets, numbers, accounting, and I will tell you that I am still figuring out some of the things in there. And I have to really study it to get it right. But if you want, I'll sit down with you and go through that. Now, I'm saying a lot of things, but the reality is that you get, you know, you get government and you've got what you've got. A city council you've elected to do this. And they're just going to do their best. We're going to bring it back to the council now. They can each comment, make their suggestions, make motions, whatever. And we'll finish out tonight here. With that, Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want a fixed budget, fixed income. Have been for about 9 years now. My taxes went up. Valuation of my house went up immensely. I still have a tax raise that I pay here in West Valley too. It's $34 a year. I wish my cable bill only went up $34 a year. Many of you have mentioned about us not getting out into the community. We do get out into the community. We don't live here at City Hall. We're out there. We're talking to people. Everybody I've talked to in the last few nights out that I've gone to last week, that I've mentioned a tax increase, and that I've mentioned that it's because we need to keep a police department. If we don't bring our police department up to scale, we won't have a police department. County will move in, they won't raise our taxes, they'll just add on fees. And we don't have any voice at all about that. But that's what will happen if we don't raise taxes. I look at it in the big picture. What can we do for everyone and all 135,000 residents of the city that will benefit them? If we have an active police department with active response times, an active fire department with active response times, our personal home insurance goes down because we can get that response that we need. That's something people don't realize, but it does. Secondly, fixed income. There are tax circuit breaker amendments that you can apply for if you're aging and if you qualify. All you have to do is go to the county who does the property assessments, not the city. Mine went up. I didn't add anything on this year. It just went up because that's what the county said it's worth now, because another house in my neighborhood sold for over $300,000. And everybody in my neighborhood, their property taxes went up. Property values, not just taxes, values went up. Interesting. But you can apply. I think it's, if you have an income less than $31,900 and are over 66, you can apply for a circuit breaker on your property tax. All you have to do is apply. I hope all of you also attended all of the other truth in taxation hearings that are listed on your property tax notice. Granite School District, they went up 7%. Salt Lake County went up 5%. Those have already held their truth in taxation hearings. I hope you attended those. Central Utah Water Conservancy District is having one next week. They're anticipating raising 4%. It's not a big number, whole $1.28. But those are the times when you can talk to people and make your thoughts known. We're not the only ones that are raising property taxes. That's why you get this notice. And that's why they've all notified and noticed everybody about their raises too. So hopefully you'll attend those also. Thank you.
Okay, because I can't see him, I'd like to turn to Councilman Vincent to see if he has any comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
I I would just like to echo what both the mayor and what Councilman Christensen have said. I think too many times people believe that the tax increase is all a result of the city function, when in reality there are a lot of things that go into that. The county does the assessment, and then the county has many other taxing entities that take a piece of that pie. And I've heard the 35% thrown around quite a bit, and in reality we're talking about 8.5%, not 35%. My income has gone down 25% in the last year, and so this really hurt me. Probably worse than if I was on a fixed income, because I've had to adjust the 25% decrease in my wages. So, and as far as getting out into the neighborhoods, my wife and I, our daytimes are spent out in the neighborhood. I'm walking and out driving and talking to people, and so yes, I'm aware of what's going on in the neighborhood. I'm aware of what my neighbors are talking about. I also attended my neighborhood meeting last week, and it was pretty gentle consensus from the people that I talked to that the need to take care of our fire employees was critical. And nothing bothers me more than to talk to a resident that says it took 2 hours for our police to respond because we're understaffed. And so I think we'd be irresponsible not to take care of those needs.
Does that conclude your remarks, Councilman Vincent?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure the phone didn't cut out or something. Okay. Councilman Bueller.
Thank you, and I want to thank you all for coming. I made some notes, and I'm not going to read them all because I'd actually like to speak on some other things. There are lots of things that I'd like to respond to in the 2 hours or so that we've been listening to this. I've lost sleep over this, and I do all the time on these issues, and I've been sleeping on a heating pad or lying on one when I come home from work because I carry that stress in my back. And it's not stress about what's the right thing to do here. It's stress about this us and them situation that is created in our city. I don't see it as us and them. We're all us. We all live in the city. City manager lives in the city. The assistant city manager lives in the city. The police chief lives in the city. We all work here, and we want to do what's best for the city. And, you know, frankly, it hurts my feelings that people in the city don't recognize that. We're not them, we're you. And we just want to do the best. As far as we've already made these decisions and this is a formality and it doesn't matter at all, that's not true. But we meet year-round at 4:30 in the afternoon. Sometimes we're done by 7, sometimes we're not done until 10 or later. But you're not here. We have these discussions year-round. The budget discussion, we're required to pass it by law this month. It has to be a balanced budget. We have to come up with money to pay for things, many of which we've already committed to. Now, I don't like paying taxes, and I don't like taxing my neighbors. I pulled up my tax bill, and my tax is being increased to $364.81 for the West Valley City portion of that. Of course, my property tax bill is a lot higher than that, but most of it doesn't go to the city. Most of it goes to all of those other places. But this is a great country that we live in, all of us, where we can come and gather and you can tell us what we're doing wrong and we'll sit here and listen to it. And you have no reprisal, no fear that anything bad's going to happen to you or that we're going to not send the police to your house, you're going to get on a blacklist. People can come and criticize us from other cities, people that don't even live here, and they do, and they write letters to the editors about it. We have people come here and they said their piece and they left without even hearing what we might have to say about it. And isn't that great? Because, you know, we're a democracy, we're a Republican democracy, and we can just, you know, lay on our city representatives as much as we want to and nothing bad happens to us. And I appreciate that because I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to any of us. I pay a heck of a lot of taxes, I think. You know, I'm self-employed, and before my income tax was even calculated, I'd pay 15.3% of my gross income as a self-employment tax. That's a lot of money. And then I pay federal income tax and state income tax, and I hope they do well with those taxes, but that, comparing that to what we pay for in the city, it's nothing. It's $1 a day for me to pay for my city services. In my district this year, we had a resident in my neighborhood, in fact, fall down on a sidewalk that's been broken up for years. We finally got around on the list to having those sidewalks repaired. As a city council this past year, near Robert Frost Elementary, we voted to install a sidewalk that's never been there so that the kids can walk on the sidewalk back and forth to school. We mentioned that the police and fire come when we need them. All of those things are paid for with this city money, with this property tax money, not from somebody else. The federal government doesn't do those things for us. The state government doesn't do those things for us. The county doesn't do those things for us. We have to do them ourselves. We do them by pooling that money through these property taxes and taking care of these projects. As far as having made this decision before, we make this decision year-round because we vote on things year-round that are going to cost money. We were the first city in Utah to vote to have police cams. We thought that was important for the protection of our residents and for the protection of our police department. That cost a lot of money. We have to store that data. That is extremely expensive. Every one of us up here, we might not all vote for the tax increase, but we really did because we voted for that storage. In May, we voted to bond so that we could refurbish or rebuild some fire stations. Those are needed. We've been told that the new apparatus won't fit in our stations. We don't have adequate facilities for our firefighters. I've gone with the firefighters. I've done fire ops training. It is a job of waiting around, cleaning, and joking around. Then all of a sudden you're in extreme conditions and extreme physical labor, mental and physical stress for an hour, 2, 3, 4, and then you're cleaning up and trying to recover from that again. And that recovery, we are straining our fire department by sending out 3-man crews. We have to send a fire truck with the ambulance every time because of the work that's necessary even on a medical call. We don't have all the newest equipment to get some of our larger residents into the ambulance. I mean, we are straining and we're doing the very best we can. But year-round, we have people come tell us they want better policing, they want better ordinance enforcement, they want better roads. Why can't we fix the pothole? Why can't we get some speed control on 4100 South? We get that year-round, and once every 4 years, we get 30 or 40 people come to tell us that we're stealing their money and we're criminals and we shouldn't be charging them taxes. And yet in this very meeting, we had a mention that we better fix the roads, we're not doing a good enough job with the roads, we need to do better policing. All of these things that we're just trying to collect some money and take care of these issues. Now, I was upset some years ago when we had a mayor that wouldn't vote for the tax increase. I thought he refused to vote for the tax increase for reasons that were they didn't make any sense to me. I think because we already had enough votes for the increase, and we have that problem again. Everybody up here has voted for this increase already. Not by announcing that vote today, but by voting for these things that cost money. And it's completely dishonest and disingenuous to come to this meeting and say I'm not going to vote for a tax increase even though I voted to spend the money. It's two sides of the same coin. We can't approve these things year-round and say we're going to spend this money and appropriate these funds and then not have the funds to do so. And lay it on somebody else. Somebody else is going to have to raise taxes or find ways to pay for that. If we're not going to vote for the tax increase, we've been working on this year-round. Come up with some plan. Tell us where we can save $2.8 million or whatever amount of money. And it's not in little things, you know, here and there. That's a significant amount of money. We voted to accept the new contract for our health insurance. We've already done that. How are we going to pay for it? Well, we're all going to pool our money together and pay for it. And my $250 a day, $250 a month. Well, maybe I did that wrong. That's about $1 a day. Yeah, about $30 a month is going to be part of that. And your $30 or $40, maybe you have a better house than I do, is going to be part of that too. And we're going to take care of these things that need to be taken care of. And I'm sorry. Our tax revenues are pretty flat. When I was 21, I got a job and I was making $4.50 an hour, and I thought that was great. I can't survive on $4.50 an hour anymore. But that's exactly what happens with our property tax. We set a rate, and it stays that way, and 4 years later, we need to bump it up a little bit because we can't live on that amount of money all the time. We're gonna take care of these projects that we've agreed to take care of and committed to take care of, and signed contracts to take care of, and the mayor signed resolutions that we're gonna take care of, and we all voted for them in most cases, and that's just the way it is.
Councilwoman Lang.
So, sorry, I've lost my voice, which my husband loves, but.
Pull the
not everybody.
microphone closer.
Closer, and more water. Anyway. So a few times it was mentioned that maybe we should increase taxes, the 1.5% per year instead of 8% at one time. And I own a small business. I have a family budget. If I told the people I work with, yep, you get 1.5 every year no matter what, they're gonna find a way to spend it. And for staff, they have to live within their means until we have situations like the body cams and our police department being, all the wages around the state being raised, and we have to match that. Things like that come up that we have to raise our taxes for. So in the past, staff has recommended, let's just raise it 1 or 2% every single year and just keep it constant. But to me, I just think that's a free check. And I would rather keep the check and balances on staff. They do a great job, but it is our responsibility to spend your money and our money. And so that's why I don't think we just give the free check and the free raise. And so maybe the suggestion is know that we're going to raise them. Our cost of living is going to go up, so put a little savings aside, and you'll have it in the future when we have to. But we do keep them in check. And poor Mr. Pyle, has to put up with me year-round, questioning a lot of the things that come before us in our meetings. And we don't just write out free checks for them. They do have to answer a lot of questions. We make sure that it's the best thing for our citizens, because it is our pocketbooks that are being affected just as well as yours. So it's the same thing that I hope that you know that we're doing the best we can, and that we are doing those checks and balances to make sure that we're spending your money wisely and our money wisely, because it comes out of our pocketbooks as well. And we know that everybody has budgets, and I joke to my husband when something comes up, I'm like, it's 3 Diet Cokes I can't have just to pay for this. Or I relate it to Diet Cokes. So, you know, however many Diet Cokes I can't have this year because my property taxes went up. But I have the Diet Coke budget. Not everybody does. And I realize that because medicines are expensive. As we get older, things, I don't like the name of I'm getting older, but it's a whole nother story. But as we go, our different costs go up, and we understand that. But the costs go up for us to provide the services. It was amazing when I was running for this position, and I have a job that I get to see a lot of residents every day. And I was amazed how many people said, I am so grateful for what the city does for what I pay. I pay my $450 a year, and I get fire and sidewalks and, you know, all the things that were mentioned tonight. He said, if I was in an HOA in another city, I would be paying more than that in just my HOA fees, not my property taxes. So I have to pay my property taxes in other cities and my HOA. He says, all I get there is a pool and a tennis court. So we really do get a lot for our money. And I was thankful for those citizens that have brought that to my attention, that we really do get, for the services we have, a pretty good bang for our buck.
Mr. Norfeld.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief. Thank you for being here tonight, for speaking to us. All the information that you give us is another piece of the puzzle that helps us to make the decisions. And we have to weigh what you say with all the other information that we've gathered over the past year and before that. And I appreciate you staying and hearing what we have to say as well. Thank you. I also made promises when I was campaigning, but I never promised that I wouldn't raise taxes. I promised that I would do what I thought was the right thing for my family, for my city that I love, and for the future of our city. And that's why I'll be voting for this tax increase, because I believe it's the right thing. I know it's not easy, and it's a difficult decision to make, but I promised I'd be brief, so I'll stop now.
Councilman Hume.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you so much for coming tonight to share your feelings and your thoughts about the matter tonight about the tax increase. If you look at if you take a closer look at the Westwood City, and you will find a very unique city. Before 1980, Westwood City is the rancher and hunter and the part of Chesterfield. What is that telling us? Give me the answer, but you don't have to do that. What is that telling us? It's telling us this city is not only people, they live here like Saratoga Springs or Eagle Mountain, a young city. It is cities they came here from pioneer times. And they still here, generation and generation, they still here. And they still, what does that mean? What is it translating to us? That means they are old people. They are living fixed income. 15 people tonight, they came here and they spoke to us. 3 people are working and then 12 people is fixed income, retirement people. So how are we going to fix this problem? That's my point. That's my point. How are we going to fix this problem? Compare with Saratoga Springs, Harriman, Eagle Mountain, West Jordan, South Jordan. We're unique. How we fix this problem? We need to shift our money. I understand. I do understand. It's a city expenditure. Every city has that. Healthcare increase, inflation. We have that problem. Every city has that problem. But how we fix it? We need to shift that money or that bill. Every time city we have the bill, we have to shift the money to people they can afford it. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. People that come here tonight is all fixed income. And go back to Mr. Substats. I go out every single door. I talk to Margie, John, Marianne, every single one of them in my district. Who people they vote or register to vote. Every single one of them. And when I hear they call me, I will be at their door right away. Right away.
I wish I was in your district.
At midnight, they call me, I respond back. 5 minutes to midnight. And I text to Chief Lee Russell. I'm so glad, I appreciate him so much. And he responds back to me. Every single person call me, I will be at their door. Right fun. And thank you for staff. They're so kind to me. I send it back the message or I send the stuff back to the administration. They come right over, they take care of it right away for people. Black, white, Asian, Spanish, every single one of them. Every single one of them. So how do we fix that problem? Let's go back to this one. How to fix that problem? We need to shift that bill to people they can afford that to pay. So what does that mean? Sales tax. Sales tax. We have backcountry company here in our cities. We are so glad that company is inside our city. And they're making $300 million a year, sell stuff, outdoor stuff on internet. Why don't we target that? Well, what the point? What the point? It's super Walmart. And we have a possibility to do that. We have a chance to do that. Because the federal states turn those things back to individual state. And we have a lobby. Someone lobbies here. A store with a store. We can give them a list to go to on the hill and take care of that. They galvanize the people to do that. That's my core argument tonight. Every city has expenditure. Every city has a problem in healthcare. Every one of us has inflation. We deal with that. Okay? Second example for you to look at it. 1978, if you study carefully, 1978 in California, they have Proposition 13. Go home and look and Google that. They have a cap property tax. If we are them, what we would do? May we sit there and go bankrupt? No, I'm not going to do that. I got to find out how to survive. That's the reason why I see many states down there, they have increased sales tax. But some they cannot survive, they have to go bankrupt. Just like, other cities, a couple of cities like Stockton and other cities in California. So we have to do that. That's my point. We have to ship our bill to people they can afford. Don't ship our bill to people they cannot afford. That's my point. Here, another thing I want to tell you about. I do understand, and I really appreciate the staff. They did a very good job. They gave us at least big number, XYZ money, okay? And we came together, we studied, we scanned it out. We did a very good job. We cashed out to XYZ, small money. So that's very good. Why don't we just try to figure out something different angle to solve this problem? Why? However, I'm so glad the staff gonna have a special meeting on October 21st, and then we're gonna look into a few things to try to solve problem in our city. And I'm so glad to have that, and I appreciate the staff doing it, and thank you so much. But here, don't look into property tax, the first resource. Because every time we have a problem with our bill, we just look into property tax and increase property tax. Why don't we just try out other way? Try to figure out how to take care of this problem. We have to exhaust every possible way to take care of this matter. That's my point. Everybody has to spend money. I understand every city has to do that. But here, I live in Chesterfield too. Yeah. And I love Chesterfield. And I know every corner in the city has a problem. And we do have a problem. But we just take care of our stuff, and people are very kind. And the reason I picked Chesterfield because I grew up in Vietnam, and I took care of chickens and stuff when I was little, and I love those. And I still want my kids to look those and maybe study and get close to the nature a bit and animals and all the things. So I picked Chesterfield as a place for me to hang out and to stay for a long time. But the thing is, tonight I want to share with you, every city has expenditures. We have inflation, we have healthcare problem, every single one of us, every single one of the city. But we have to shift our angle, we have to look at different angle, we have to solve the problem. That's my point. And we don't let something tangle in our head. We should go to property tax, the first resort, and that's a bad idea, very bad idea. We have to find a way to solve the problem. I know the man. He took over. He went to school, very nice, very good school, Walton, business school in Pennsylvania. Took over his parents' business, about 5 small mom and pop stores, just 5 small stores. And he just passed away. He passed when he was 67. He took that business over when he was 37 years old. And he passed away when he's 67. So during 60 years, he turned the 5 small stores into 15 states. Drippy Food Company in back east. He's a brilliant man. He brought every option on the table, and he exhausted every possible way to solve the problem. And whether he worked for himself or for his company, or whether he worked for a non-profit organization, he did a very good job. And he turned his business into a very profitable business. And I think I was so fortunate to know him, and he showed me around. I'm so glad that and I appreciate he took me around and he showed me things, how he run a business. And I thought, whether we are in private company or in a business, in a government business, we do the same thing. We have to bring every possible way on the table. Try to figure out how to solve the problem. Don't go to property tax for the first place. No, don't do that. Try to figure out how to solve that problem. It's a very unique city. It's way back to Pioneer. It's a rancher, hunter, and Chesterfield. Way back there, it's not like Saratoga, Spring, or Eagle Mountain. It's a young city. Most people, they are senior people. We just have only a pocket of 6,200 south. That's a young, couples or young families there. 5,600 west. But majority is a rancher, hunter, and Chesterfield. And we need to find a way to solve that problem. That's all I have to say tonight.
Mayor, I have questions for staff.
Yes, Councilman Euler.
Mr. Pyle, can we change our sales tax rates, or who we tax, or who we collect sales tax from in any way?
No.
Can we target our property tax to 62nd West, or to those young families or rich families?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Multiple families.
Mayor?
Councilman Nordfeld.
I move for approval of Resolution 16-120.
Second. The motion is properly before us. I would like to take this opportunity to make a few comments. I've been in elected office for over 18 years, and I can count on my fingers the number of times I've been angry, and tonight is one of them. To be called disingenuous because of the way I vote is not only silly, but ludicrous. When is it disingenuous to follow through on the things that you said you would do when you were elected to office? In my book, I would be dishonest if I didn't vote no because I told people that I would. Another comment was made that perhaps I should have done some work to put together a proposal on a budget that didn't include a tax increase. And I turned to this council, most, not all, who told me that they did not want me included in the budget process, and I could not participate in any preparation or discussion of the budget until it was finalized and released to the public. This council told me that. I will guarantee you that I can put a budget together that will balance and be fair, because I've done it before. I served in the state legislature, and I put together a budget that cut $1.3 billion out of the state budget. It was done fairly and reasonably, and the state survived. And we can survive as a city as well. And so don't tell me that I have failed in my duty or that I haven't done my due diligence. If you want me to, I will take that challenge right now, and I will go back and I will put together a budget balanced on our current revenues without any tax increase. And I can do it. I will guarantee that.
You got the wrong manager.
Mayor, may I make a comment?
Every council member is entitled to make comments. Councilman Bueller.
Mayor Bigelow, I apologize for having offended you. That was certainly not my intent, and I'm sorry. And I do not recall the conversation leading the statement that you made. There are things here that, in my opinion, we've already voted to spend the money on. And I don't recall every vote, but I don't recall very many dissenting votes on voting to spend that money. We can go back and look at those things. But I feel bad that I've angered you and that you're offended. And my choice of words, perhaps not very well chosen. I get emotional myself and sometimes say the wrong things or in a not a very delicate way. My father was a sailor, and I loved him very much, but the apple doesn't fall very far from the tree sometimes.
And I can prepare a budget with all those items included, which I thought were good. And I made those statements pretty clearly, and you've heard me make comments here in this council meeting about issues that have come up, and I said, how are we going to pay for that? Poor Mr. Pyle, and I lay none of this blame at his point. He does what the council directs him to do. Took some of the brunt of that. Because I do not believe we always made wise decisions, but I deferred to the council and especially their comments in directing me not to get too involved in the budget. And so I respected that opinion because the weight of the council, their votes take precedence. But I will still vote no because I am duty bound to do so. And my own integrity is at stake in this vote. And I made that clear to Mr. Pyle. Mr. Pyle has known this for a long time, that that's how I would be voting. And I am not thinking that very many of you are going to be surprised either. I think the worst thing that can happen in public office is to say one thing, be elected, and do the opposite. And I have tried, and it's cost me. It has cost me politically to do that. And I've done it over and over, and I will do it again tonight. And it's going to cost me again politically. And I shouldn't let my anger get control of me, but sometimes I'm sorry I can't help that.
Not here, Ron. Not going to affect you politically here.
Please, we're with the council now. You can talk with me after if you have comments. And so the proposal is before us. Each person will vote, or unless there are further comments, we will turn to our city recorder as required by law. Mr. Pyle is an ad hoc member of the council. He can't vote, but he is a member of the council in our form of government. Mr. Pyle.
Thanks, sir. I just wanted to make some commentary about the unity and the ability and the sincerity that I've seen in every single member of this council, this mayor, and particularly not just unique to this group, but over the years past, and that has been the greatest strength that I've witnessed at the city, frankly, from a political standpoint. So, you know, it pains me to see any kind of displeasure or problem that is caused by this proposal. There are a lot of things that have been said, particularly on the parts of folks that really don't have a whole lot of exposure to the process that you go through, that we go through from a staff standpoint. So, I expect that. I don't have a problem with that. But the commentary I did want to make to you as a group is that I just want you to know that from the staff standpoint, we can deal with whatever it is the decision is made from the council. As I mentioned in the beginning of my comments, and it might have been a little monotone or a little boring, but I certainly said it in there, is we do have alternatives to this increase. We could do that. I don't want to lay the burden of that on any individual person or you as a council group. That's why we do provide alternatives to you. Certainly, and as I also said in my earlier comments, I recommend property tax increase because that's wholeheartedly what I believe is the correct thing to do in the situation that we have here before us. But just because Councilman Hune thinks we should look harder, and I think that we have, and we may have that as a little bit of a difference of opinion, that's okay. I respect Tom and all the efforts and sincerity and beliefs he puts into the progress in the city. Mayor is absolutely correct. You have told me on many occasions, and as far back as we've been discussing this budget process, which goes at least as far back as January, if not further, that you would likely not be voting to support that, and that's okay too. And Mr. Bueller, who I have even had in my own past the occasion to have disagreement with in some moments of emotion in the past, but I've come to hugely appreciate the sincerity, the credibility, the efforts that he brings to this body too. So my point, again, maybe I've gotten more like a politician over the years, and I'm just too long-winded to get to the point, but I'll get to the point, which is, in any event, whatever the decision is made at the council, to support the property tax increase, to modify it, to reject it, please don't let this be any kind of a instance that would lead to disunity amongst you as a body in the future, because it's the worst thing that could happen coming out of this process and coming out of this decision. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And I apologize to you as a public that I let my emotions get a little bit of control of me. That does not happen often, and it will not happen again in the near future. To our recorder for the roll call vote as required by law.
Oh, may I make a comment before that, Mayor? Yeah.
Hold that.
I just want to tell the staff, I'm grateful for everything you guys have done. It's wonderful. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I just wonder, sometimes we just, the body of our government right here, all the council members here and mayor, we just sit down and we can take a closer look, and we can study a little bit together and try to figure out how to solve our problem here in our city. Very unique city. Comparing with other city, we very, very blessed because look at the registration, the voter registration. Most majority of people, they are in the process of local voting for local election. People here or even national, the majority of people, they are senior people, and they actively engage. And I feel really bad, and we need to figure out how to solve our problem in our city. I think that's we need to sit down all together and try working out. And I'm looking forward to having that in October. It's October 21st, is that right, Mr. Pyle? Yeah, and that's I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Any more comments? Okay. This time we're going to go ahead and have the vote.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Hune?
No.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Vincent?
Is he still there?
Councilman Vincent?
You may have a This might take a second.
Yes?
There we go.
And Mayor Bigelow.
No.
Motion passes by majority.
Thank you very much. We still have some of our agenda to go through. That concludes that portion of the budget discussion. We do have 2 other items on our agenda. 3. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes, that's right, sir.
Great.
We got one more public hearing resolution.
Yeah. Okay, the next item on our agenda is to accept public input regarding West Valley City Police Department's applications for a Justice Assistance Grant, commonly known as JAG, through the U.S. Department of Justice programs. I'm catching up here, $97,000. And this is a common grant given to many states when applied for, and we've been fortunate to get that. This will continue on in our city as well, and will be used for items related to our police department, which are helpful and beneficial since they don't come from directly from the property taxes. You all pay for it through money that goes to the federal government, and then it comes back to us. That is the item before us. With that introduction, we will accept public input regarding this application. Is there anyone here who wants to speak to this? Seeing no one here to speak to this, I will close the public hearing. We will bring it back then to the council for your comments or action.
Move for approval of Resolution 16-121.
I'll second with the comment that I think our department does a good job at going out and applying for these grants to help supplement the cost.
Thank you very much. The motion is properly before us. Any further discussion to this application? Then we'll turn to our city recorder to take a roll call vote on Resolution 16-121.
Mayor, before I call the roll, I just wanted to note that Councilman Vincent has been excused for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hune?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next we go to our resolution 16-122, support for the creation of a Veterans Hall within the state of Utah. This was a request brought to the council, and for public disclosure, I sit on the board of that foundation that brought this request forward. We are doing similar resolutions with other groups, chambers of commerce, veterans groups, as well as cities. This proposal is for a Veterans Memorial Hall and also a statewide World War II memorial. That is the proposed resolution before us. With that introduction then, we'll turn to the council.
I move for approval, Resolution 16-122.
So I would like to second, can I ask for an amendment to the resolution?
Yes, that is appropriate.
So on our next to last paragraph where it says that West Valley City hereby declare their support for effort to create, I would like to change it to the creation of the statewide Veterans Memorial Building, and then strike the last furthermore, further.
That whole paragraph.
Yes.
The final furthermore paragraph. And we will hand you a copy of that. That's written down. It's also been reviewed with legal so that we're clear that that's appropriate. So, as the maker of the motion, are you?
Is that fine with you?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And I support that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bueller?
So we have a live motion second, right?
Yes.
May I make a comment to the motion?
Yes.
Mayor Bigelow's too modest. There is no Veterans Hall Foundation without Mayor Bigelow. This is his idea, his vision. He's been promoting this. I went back to Washington DC with him to see, we met with Senator Hatch, Senator Lee, Representative Stewart's staff, Representative Love's staff, and he brought this up to all of them. He's been going around the state garnering support for this. My father, as I mentioned, he served in the Merchant Marine in World War II. And he served in the Army in the Korean War. And he was a veteran, and that we don't have a Veterans Memorial specific to World War II and to other veterans, I think is a real oversight on our part. Mayor Bigelow is a veteran of the Vietnam War, and he was instrumental, if not solely responsible, for bringing the replica of the Vietnam Memorial to West Valley City over the 4th of July. And what a great thing that was to have in our city, and for our children to see that and learn a little bit about that. I've been to Washington, D.C. a handful of times, and I enjoy going there, but many of us don't get that opportunity. It was good to have that here. I think that as Mayor Bigelow builds support for this memorial, he'd like to have it, I think, anywhere. I'd like to have it in West Valley City.
Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll go to our city recorder for a vote.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Hune?
Aye.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we do Resolution 16-123. This is a simple ratification of the reappointment by the city manager of Abigail Dizon-Mon as chair of the Professional Standards Review Board. That is the issue before us. If we're a consent calendar more than one, we'd have it separate, but we've only got one. So that's the introduction to the council.
I would move for approval of Resolution 16-123.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll place it with our city recorder for a vote.
Councilwoman Lang?
Yes.
Councilman Bueller?
Aye.
Councilman Hune?
Aye.
Councilman Christensen?
Yes.
Councilman Nordfeld?
Yes.
And Mayor Bigelow?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That concludes our business for this evening. Any final comments from the council? Seeing none, one final motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. We are adjourned. The motion passed unanimously.